Hey friends, tonight we're teleporting to a place so far off the tourist grid, even your GPS will ask for therapy. Real talk, you'd last 45 minutes, tops. Most of you modern mortals would fold faster than a lawn chair at sunrise, before coffee, before Wi-Fi, before the concept of breakfast burrito was invented. Survival rating. 1 star, and that star is currently stuck in customs. So, if you're still conscious and not currently being chased by an Ottoman, yes, the furniture, do the algorithmic kindness, smash like, tickle subscribe, but only if my voice hasn't already voided your warranty. Drop your coordinates in the chat, city, country, o'clock. Bonus points if you're in pajamas that could be legally classified as a biohazard. Now, dim the lights to parent approaching level. Fire up that fan so it hums like a bored bee, and let's tiptoe into tonight's bedtime rabbit hole. No caffeine required, but let's be honest, you've probably had some already. Sweet dreams, foam dreams, and remember, if you hear knocking, it's just history asking to borrow sugar. Let's ease into tonight's journey together. The call to prayer is still a rumor when you first open your eyes. You're lying on a rush mat that crackles like autumn cereal beneath a wool blanket dyed the color of over-steeped tea. The room is small enough that your feet could audition for a balcony scene if they cared to, but they don't. They're busy deciding whether the stone floor is colder than your willingness to move. Somewhere outside, a gull argues with a cat. The gull is winning on volume, the cat on sarcasm. You sniff charcoal, salt, damp pine, and faint as a secret, something roasted. It isn't coffee, not yet, but the ghost of it, the way tomorrow sometimes smells today. Istanbul is still called Constantinople in some stubborn hearts, but the Ottomans are in charge, and the city is their brine-soaked jewel. You, however, are merely a visitor who woke up inside history the way one wakes inside a dream, shoeless, mapless, and curiously calm. A copper tray appears at your elbow. On it, a cube of laukumi wearing a snowy coat of sugar, a tiny glass of water, and a note that reads, in handwriting as pointed as a minaret, "Bring the cup." That's it. No signature, no directions. You pop the sweet square into your mouth. It tastes like rosewater trying to remember summer. The water is so cold it makes your teeth feel aristocratic. You dress. Layer 1, linen shirt that has forgiven many sins. Layer 2, waist-length kaftan the color of coffee with just enough cream to lie about its strength. Layer 3, confidence you don't yet feel. The corridor outside your room is a shrug of shadows. You follow it, barefoot, until the floor changes from stone to wood to stone again, cooler now, as though the building itself is deciding whether to trust you. At the bottom of a narrow stair, a door yawns. Beyond it, the city's earliest marketplace, still yawning itself. Stalls are half-built dreams, canvas flaps, unlit lanterns, a pyramid of pomegranates glowing like low, burning coals. A boy leads a camel whose eyelashes are longer than your future. The camel sneers at you, clearly unimpressed by your modern posture. You sneer back, but politely. Even camels have connections here. The sky is a bowl slowly filling with diluted milk. Minarets poke up like cinnamon sticks stir-ring the dawn. Somewhere to your left, a fish flops once, indignant about philosophy. You remember the note. Bring the cup. You don't have a cup. You have hands, moderately functional, and pockets as empty as a historian's promise. Then you spot the stall shaped like a sideways tulip. Its awning is indigo, embroidered with silver coffee beans the size of chickpeas. Behind the counter, a woman with a beauty mark shaped like the Aegean is polishing. What else? A cup. It is thumb-sized white porcelain, hairline crack like a lightning bolt across its belly. She raises one eyebrow, a gesture so economical it could balance a budget. "You're late," she says, though your fairly sure time hasn't been invented yet. She slides the cup toward you. It is warm, as if it has just been holding hands with the sun. You wrap your fingers around it and feel your pulse slow to the rhythm of distant oars. "Late for what?" you ask. Your voice sounds younger than you remember. "For the thing you're not supposed to enjoy," she replies, and drops a single green coffee bean into your palm. It's still soft, like a pebble that's having second thoughts. Follow the smell when it decides to roast. Before you can ask another question, she pulls the shutter down between you, the way one closes an eyelid. The market exhales and folds into itself. You stand there, cup and bean in hand, listening to Istanbul stretch and mutter. A breeze lifts, carrying the faint promise of cardamom and conspiracy. You close your eyes, inhale, and realize the city has just issued an invitation written entirely in aroma. Somewhere, a coffee house is waking up illegally, and you, lucky, confused, slightly underdressed, you are the guest of honor. You follow the scent the way a cat trails a ribbon, half curiosity, half compulsion, until the market's yawn folds into a narrow lane that feels more like a sentence than a street. Overhead, balconies lean together for gossip, their wooden bellies almost touching, blocking the sky into a ribbon of bruised peach. The walls exhale centuries of smoke, onion, and the metallic breath of pots that have never quite forgiven the fire. Underfoot, the cobbles are slick with overnight dew, and the occasional reckless olive pit. Your bare soles meet cold copper streaks, thin tram lines of it hammered into the stones, guiding footsteps like airport lights for people who've never seen an airplane. You shuffle along them, cup clinking against your thigh, bean tucked safe behind your ear because pockets feel too predictable. Each shopfront is a percussion section. Hammers ping, tongs clap, anvils provide bass. Coppersmiths in leather aprons sing in time, their voices raspy from arguing with metal. One craftsman catches your eye, mustache so luxurious it could double as a scarf. He lifts a freshly beaten seive, the long-handled pot for brewing coffee, and flicks it so the surface flashes like a signal mirror. The reflection winks straight at you, then tilts toward a shadowed doorway you hadn't noticed. Subtle as a wink from a lighthouse, you duck inside. The temperature drops 10 degrees and the noise folds itself into a velvet hush. The room is a cave of polished metal, trays, ewers, grinders, funnels, all murmuring in warm sepia tones. It smells of earth after rain, plus a top note of whatever mystery feels like when bottled. A boy of maybe 12 stands on a stool, engraving a tiny coffee cup with a feathered quill. His tongue pokes out the corner of his mouth, concentrating hard enough to bend spoons 3 districts away. Without looking up, he says, "You're expected," which is impressive because you didn't expect yourself until about 6 minutes ago. Expected to do what? You whisper, suddenly aware your vocabulary has shrunk to tourist size. "To carry," he answers, blowing copper dust from the cup. It spirals like cinnamon off warm milk. He hops down, places the cup, now engraved with a single bean splitting into a crescent moon, into your palm beside the first. This new cup rings higher, lighter, as though it's been trained in soprano. From the back curtain emerges a woman older than parchment, face a road map of every empire that ever overstayed its welcome. She lifts a tiny scale, weighs your heartbeat against a coffee bean, nods approvingly. Then she ties a crimson thread around your wrist. "So you can find the way back," she explains, "should the city decide to rearrange itself while you're gone." Istanbul does that on Tuesdays. You file away for later. She hands you a copper pestle no longer than a pinky finger. Grind quietly, she warns, or the beans will wake the guards. You picture beans with tiny helmets, marching in formation, and stifle a laugh that would definitely be classified as noise. The boy taps your original porcelain cup. Cracked already. Brave. He says it like a diagnosis. Brave cups hold more stories, but they leak destiny if you jostle. You promise to jostle minimally. Outside, the lane has rearranged itself. Shops swapped places while your back was turned, like classmates cheating on a seating chart. The copper tram lines now point uphill toward a sliver of sky the color of roasted hazelnut. You ascend. Your footsteps sound like rain on a tin roof heard from inside a duvet. Halfway, a Janissary appears, tulip-shaped helmet tucked under one arm, mustache less friendly than the coppersmith's. He eyes the cups, the pestle, the thread. Time does a little stretch yoga. Then he simply steps aside, as if you're wearing an invisibility kaftan. Maybe the city has already adopted you. Maybe you just have one of those forgettable faces. Either way, you'll take it. At the crest of the hill, the lane spills into a tiny square no wider than a yawn. In its center, a wellhead covered by a copper lid sealed with wax the color of over-brewed coffee. A circle of men stands around it, each holding an empty cup identical to yours. They nod in quiet solidarity, the way fellow travelers acknowledge each other in delayed airports. One man, beard streaked with silver like foam on a badly poured latte, steps forward and taps the lid 3 times. The wax cracks. A plume of aroma escapes, so rich you feel your thoughts put on velvet slippers. Somewhere inside, coffee is breathing. The bearded man gestures to you. Apparently, you're the key holder. Of course you are. You produce your cracked cup, hold it over the fissure. The silver-streaked beard raises an eyebrow, ready. You inhale, nod, and prepare to receive the city's most whispered about beverage, brewed in a well because secrecy loves depth. Around you, copper walls echo your heartbeat like a soft gong. The thread on your wrist pulses warm, matching tempo. Istanbul holds its breath, and for a moment even the seagulls are polite. The lid lifts fully, releasing a cloud that smells like Earth's first idea of breakfast. Inside the wellhead is no water, just a brass pot nesting in embroidered towels, its neck wrapped in damp hemp to keep the brew polite. A ladle, slender as a heron's leg, dips itself without human help. Or so it seems, and rises, trembling, toward your cracked cup. The coffee pours, obsidian, thick, with a coppery shimmer that hints at mineral mischief. You expect scald, but the liquid kisses porcelain like a cautious lover, hot enough to promise, gentle enough to stay. The circle of men watches with the reverence of people viewing a solar eclipse through smoked glass. You lift the cup. Steam writes calligraphy across your face. You can't read it, but your pores feel flattered. First sip is passport, the bearded man murmurs. His voice sounds aged in cedar. You sip. Flavor arrives in layers, first a dusk of cardamom, then the slow trumpet of cedar smoked bean, finally a brown sugar finish that lingers like the last guest at a party. Somewhere between second and third swallow, your brain downloads a small history file. A woman in 1590 roasting beans on a shield after battle, her laughter stitched into every crackle. You don't recall pressing play. The men exhale collectively, as though you've passed a test they were too polite to mention. One by one, they extend their cups toward the ladle. No one speaks. The square is quieter than snow falling upward. You feel your heartbeat relocate to the vicinity of your tongue. When your cup is half empty, the storyteller materializes. No door, no footsteps, just there, cross-legged on a carpet the size of a postage stamp, yet somehow accommodating his elbows. His eyes are roasted almonds, twinkling with oily mischief. He clears his throat. The sound is papery, like a library approving a late return. "Tonight's tale," he begins, "is banned in 7 districts and frowned upon in the rest." He winks, and you realize his eyelashes are tattooed tiny quills. Once upon a time that hasn't happened yet, a sultan dreamt his people were drinking laughter ground finer than beans. He woke choking on his own giggle. Advisors agreed. Giggles are gateways to opinions, opinions to regime change. Thus, coffee became treason wearing perfume. You snort. An accident. Coffee threatens to exit via nostril diplomacy. The circle chuckles politely. Even treason loves an audience. Storyteller continues. The Sultan commissioned a map marking every cup, every kettle, every involuntary smile. But maps dislike authority. They wrinkle, they smudge, they reproduce in drawers. So the Sultan banned the map, then banned the drawers. Soon only the ban remained, lonely as a lighthouse with no sea. He pauses to accept a cup from the ladle, drinks, sighs like a deflating accordion. And here you sit, sipping the very laughter he feared. Congratulations, traveler, you are contraband with a heartbeat. You glance into your own cup. The surface reflects not your face but a miniature Istanbul, minarets twitching, Bosphorus sloshing inside porcelain shores. You nearly drop it. The bearded man steadies your wrist. "Hold steady," he whispers. "Stories spill easier than coffee, but both stain." Storyteller leans closer. "Want to hear the secret ending?" His breath carries nutmeg and conspiracy. You nod before your caution committee convenes. "Good," he says, "because the ending requires a volunteer." He produces a copper coin, date-worn smooth, and drops it into your cup. It lands with a plop that sounds oddly final. That coin is your ticket to the underground house. When the ban comes, and it will, show the coin, speak the words "been there, done that," and doors will open. Just remember, every door is a two-way sip. You search for further instructions, but the storyteller is already folding himself smaller, like a napkin retreating into a pocket. Within 3 breaths he is gone, leaving only the faint echo of papery laughter. The circle disperses, melting into shadowed arcades as if rehearsed. The square feels suddenly too large, like a party after the music stops. You're alone with a cooling cup, a copper coin benthic in residual brew, and a wrist thread pulsing Morse you can't decode. From somewhere, downhill comes the first metallic clang of morning patrol, helmets tapping rhythm into cobblestones. The bearded man reappears long enough to press a finger to his lips, then points at your feet, time to walk softly and carry a cracked cup. You append the last swallow into your mouth, coin and all. It clinks against your teeth, deciding whether you're trustworthy. You swallow carefully. No choking, no regime change, at least none audible. The coin rests heavy, warm, like a secret you've agreed to babysit. Dawn's first official ray spears the square. Copper surfaces ignite, turning the plaza into a kettle of light. Somewhere inside that glare, you glimpse the silhouette of a green silk man, the same watcher from the market, standing on a rooftop, notebook in hand. He does not wave. You tuck the empty cup into your caftan, tighten the crimson thread, and choose the alley that smells most like escape. Behind you, the wellhead lid closes with a sigh that could be satisfaction or warning. Your stomach notes, matter-of-factly, that coffee without breakfast is a candle without cake, illuminating but insufficient. Your legs disagree. They feel caffeinated enough to audition for a whirling dervish troupe. You compromise by walking at medium wonder. At the alley's mouth, a cat the color of unfoamed milk crosses your path, tail high like an exclamation mark. It pauses, looks back, clearly inviting you to follow. You do. After all, every good conspiracy needs a feline chapter. The cat zigzags like spilled mercury through alleys that narrow until even your thoughts walk single file. You trust the animal. Cats have always known which laps are safe and which governments are temporary. Eventually, the passage widens into a modest courtyard ringed by plane trees and one suspiciously perfect silence. At the far end stands a 2-story wooden house, paint the color of pistachio ice cream left in the sun too long. Its upper balcony sags under the weight of potted jasmine and one man, green silk robes, pointed slippers curling like receipt paper, and the same scowl you clocked earlier. The governor, because that's who this must be, doesn't lean so much as loiter with authority. His notebook is open. A feathered quill scratches across it with the urgency of a rat filing last-minute taxes. The cat sits, tail wraps paws, expression says, "Your move, ambassador." You consider retreat, but the thread around your wrist tugs gently, as if the city itself wants a closer introduction. You step forward. Every footfall sounds like someone squeezing an accordion very slowly. The governor's gaze snaps to you, 2 cold coffees with no sugar. He descends the staircase with the measured tread of someone who has never tripped over irony in his life. "Name," he demands, though it sounds more like a verdict than a question. You open your mouth. Nothing comes out except the faint aroma of contraband brew. Fantastic. Your breath is now Exhibit A. He inhales, nostrils flare like twin cupboard doors discovering scandal. Coffee. Recent. Illegal. Each word lands like a stamp on an eviction notice. You consider producing the copper coin, but recall the storyteller's warning about timing. Instead, you shrug with what you hope passes for ignorant innocence, rather than the specialized guilt you're currently incubating. The governor circles. Jasmine petals detach overhead, drift down like tiny subpoenas. "Do you know the penalty for unauthorized joy?" he asks. You shake your head. You also don't know the penalty for jaywalking in 1633, but suspect it involves parts of your anatomy you'd rather keep social. He flips a page, reads aloud. Clause 27. Any person found smiling before sunrise under influence of bean brew shall forfeit said smile to the Imperial Archives. He looks up. We file them next to confiscated laughter. Despite yourself, you laugh, small, surprised, entirely the wrong audition piece. His eyes widen, gleeful as a tax collector finding extra coins under the sofa of your soul. Another clause broken. You collect violations the way children collect marbles. Behind you, the cat yawns, showcasing fangs sharp enough to slice red tape. The governor notices. His expression sours further, as if the animal's insolence is also on your tab. He snaps fingers. From side doors appear 2 guards, tall, turbanned, sporting mustaches that could double as hanging gardens. They flank you, not touching, but close enough that you smell their breakfast, plain water and loyalty. "Search," the governor orders. They pat with the delicacy of people needing very expensive dough. One finds the cracked porcelain cup, the other the tiny copper pestle. Both items look innocent enough, artisanal, slightly pathetic, yet the guards handle them like unexploded ordnance. The governor examines the cup, traces the lightning bolt crack. "A flawed vessel for a flawed philosophy," he declares. Coffee is conspiracy disguised as warmth. Cracks leak propaganda. You want to argue that cracks mostly leak coffee, but diplomacy arrives late to your tongue, hung over and apologetic. He snaps again. A guard produces a silk pouch, drops your belongings inside with ceremonial slowness. Confiscated, the governor says. You may reclaim them after 15 days of civic frowning. No smiling, no whistling, and absolutely no caffeinated daydreaming. 15 days sounds like 15 centuries when your circadian rhythm is 80% cardamom. Panic flickers. The crimson thread on your wrist pulses once, warm, reassuring. You breathe. The governor leans closer, voice lowering to library level. Between us, he murmurs, I enjoy the aroma. But governance requires predictability, and coffee makes people hope. Hope is slippery. It spills. He straightens, returns to declaim volume. Take him to the contemplation cells. Let him consider the sedition of flavor. Guards grip your elbows. You glance at the cat. It blinks twice. Code for patience, human. The plot's still brewing. You allow yourself to be steered toward a side gate, steps echoing like slow applause from a very grim audience. As you pass beneath the jasmine, the governor calls after, when you tire of beans and bankruptcy, inform me. I could use a nose like yours, detecting dissent before it foams. He says it almost kindly, which is somehow worse. Then the gate slams, jasmine scent replaced by stone and resignation. Corridor stretches ahead, torchlight flickering across walls like gossip trying to decide on a shape. You walk, guards silent, your thoughts louder than metal. You inventory remaining assets, one crimson thread, one swallowed copper coin, one cat somewhere plotting, and the lingering taste of story on your tongue. Not riches, but smuggleable. At the first turning, you catch a glimpse of courtyard through arrow-slit window, the governor back on balcony, scribbling. He pauses, sniffs air, frowns, as if the wind just delivered news he isn't ready to read. You allow yourself the tiniest of smiles. After all, they haven't legislated against inner joy. Yet, somewhere ahead, a door waits, possibly unlocked, possibly hungry. You roll the copper coin's taste across your teeth like a worry bead. 15 days of civic frowning. Unlikely. Your breath is already fermenting another plan, and coffee, legal or not, has always been the taste of plots percolating. The corridor ends at a wooden door braced with iron that looks like it flosses with horseshoes. One guard produces a key the size of a breakfast banana. The lock groans like a historian asked to simplify. Inside, a cell, but also, unexpectedly, a stage. Stone walls curve into a small amphitheater. Wooden benches rise in 3 crescent tiers, each occupied by silent men hugging instruments, oud, ney, darbuka, canon, plus one contrabass that appears to have been born here and never forgiven its parents. A single oil lamp swings overhead, throwing shadows that practice choreography. The guards nudge you onto a stool center stage. Contemplate, one mutters, exiting. The door thuds. Echo rehearses a minor chord. You anticipate boredom thick enough to butter, but then a man, nose shaped like a treble clef, lifts his neigh and exhales. Sound unfurls, soft as dusk sneaking into curtains. An oud answers, plucked by a youth whose mustache is still buffering. Rhythms braid, fingertips on goat skin, silver rings on copper strings, the low growl of that contrabass complaining about rent. No one speaks. Music is the password here. You realize this isn't punishment, it's rehearsal. For what? The lute player winks, wait. Between phrases, you pick up subtler percussion, the drip of condensation, your pulse sinking to a 10/8-beat jazz hasn't invented yet. The cracked cup in your confiscation pouch rides the rhythm, faint clink-clink, like a tiny passenger tapping the driver's shoulder. Even the coin in your gut seems to vibrate, humming in B minor. Song ends on a breath held so long you wonder if time just glitched. Then chaos, cheerful, caffeinated chaos. Musicians laugh, swap jokes about governors who can't keep tempo. A drummer tosses you a tambourine the size of a saucer. "Play contrabass," he jokes. "It's lighter than guilt." You rattle tentative. The jingle rings like tiny keys unlocking invisible doors. Treble clef nose guy leans in. "We perform tonight, underground. Audience needs smuggled joy. You in?" You point at your chest me. He nods. "Every prison has a back door. Ours is harmony. Guards bet on us to keep inmates docile. We bet on music to keep us mobile." Another musician produces a tray of miniature cups, porcelain thin as gossip. From inside the contrabass's hollow, he pulls a cloth-wrapped pot, still warm, smelling like revolution wearing perfume. Coffee pours, foam settles into a perfect crescent moon. You sip, illegally, deliciously, and feel the corridor sentence dissolve. Notes percolate your bloodstream faster than caffeine, plans, exits, rhythms. The thread on your wrist pulses in 7/8. Even your goosebumps are dancing. Rehearsal resumes. They teach you a simple ostinato: shake, rest, tap, rest. Easier than breathing, harder than lying still. Somewhere between beats, you realize the governor's error. He locked music with the prisoner, like storing matches beside kindling. Final run through climaxes in a collective stomp so loud the lamp swings berserk. Shadows cartwheel across stone, briefly spelling freedom in cursive you can almost read. Then silence, sudden, conspiratorial. Door bolts scrape. Guards return, faces stern but eyes betraying toe-tap sympathy. "Enough contemplation," one says. "Move." Musicians pack with practiced stealth, strings loosened, drums tucked under robes, coffee pot vanished back into contrabass maternity ward. Treble clef presses a spare nay into your hand, light as a bird bone. "For later," he whispers. "Blow when the crack appears." You tuck it behind your sash, nodding despite not understanding cracks or schedules. Exit feels anticlimactic. No ovation, no encore. Yet as you file out, every musician taps your shoulder in sync. 1, 2, 3, rest. The rhythm follows you like a password. Back in the stone corridor, guards escort you onward. But now your footsteps compose counter melodies. Your heart keeps 10/8 time, and somewhere ahead an underground audience is warming its hands around cups you helped tune. Governments may confiscate beans, you realize, but rhythm is contraband that travels light. Your escorts march you down a spiral stair that coils like a stubborn corkscrew, each step humming the tambourine rhythm you can't shake. Torches gutter, throwing shadows that seem to rehearse their own puppet lines against the wall. At the bottom, a different door, cedar planks bound with darker wood, aromatic enough to make your tongue think of wardrobes and grandmothers. One guard knocks, 3 short, 2 long, the pattern you memorized earlier without meaning to. The door opens inward, breathing out a draft of warm air that smells of ink, hot glue, and lamp oil secrets. Inside is a cellar theater, low ceiling, benches packed shoulder to shoulder, every head turned toward a linen screen glowing like a full moon on a diet. Behind the screen, a single oil lamp projects giants no bigger than your thumb. The puppets, translucent leather, jewel-colored, argue, woo, and sword fight in silhouette. The audience gasps on cue, someone sobs quietly, everyone is chewing roasted seeds loud enough to sound like applause from mice. Your guards pause, uncertain. Culture is clearly above their pay grade. A veiled usher glides over, whispers something that includes the word invited, and just like that your handcuffs become invisible. The guards retreat, probably relieved to hand you off to art. You're guided to a side aisle, given a floor cushion that exhales ancient dust, and handed a tiny cup. Yes, coffee, darker than the corridor of your morning. You sip. The room tilts a degree more magical. On screen, the hero wears a turban the size of a respectable ego. He's debating a hunchbacked vizier whose chin could open envelopes. Their voices come from two unseen puppeteers perched above the backstage beam. One of the voices is instantly familiar, the storyteller from the well, papery and amused. You nearly choke on recognition. Hero puppet. Oh, vizier, why ban the bean that makes the mind dance? Vizier puppet. Because thoughts that dance also march, and marching begins in taverns of steam. The audience murmurs. Someone hisses, too real. Someone else giggles like a leak in propriety. You glance around and spot, 2 rows ahead, the lace-veiled woman who trades beans for gossip. Her eyes smile sideways at you, then return to the screen. The cat from the courtyard is curled on her lap, pretending not to watch. Storyteller's voice continues now through the vizier. Let laughter be measured, let smiles be taxed. For every giggle, 1 asp, for every snort, 1 hour of civic frowning. The hunchback puppet produces a miniature abacus and begins calculating the audience's joy debt. Beads clack, the sound live mixed by a percussionist hidden behind a pillar. Each clack lands like a heartbeat you suddenly owe the treasury. You feel the copper coin shift in your stomach, as if responding to the abacus. The cracked cup in your pouch vibrates faintly, porcelain echoing porcelain. On screen, the hero draws a sword shaped suspiciously like a coffee spoon. He declares, "Then I shall duel in foam, and spill not blood but breakfast." Laughter ripples through the cellar, a warm, buoyant sound that feels contraband in itself. A new shadow enters stage left, tall, green-robed helmet shaped like a tulip. The governor puppet. The audience inhales as one. Mini-governor produces a tiny scroll, unfurls it the length of the screen, and reads, "By clause infinity, all amusement must be pre-approved in triplicate, signed by sorrow, stamped by boredom." He then attempts to arrest the hero for excessive froth. The hero counters by flinging his spoon sword. It arcs, spins, and lands, plink, into the governor's scroll, pinning it to a painted wall. Ink bleeds across the linen like night soaking into morning. The scroll melts into black coffee and drips off stage, where a puppet janissary slips and falls with a squeak. The audience erupts, clapping, stomping, seed shells flying like confetti at a revolution-themed wedding. You can't help it, you laugh loud. It feels like exhaling a month of bad forecasts. Instantly, you regret the volume. Authority has ears in every rafter, but no one shushes you. Instead, a dozen shoulders bump yours in solidarity. Laughter is currency here, and you've just made a deposit. Behind the screen, the storyteller's silhouette bows. He raises a puppet that looks remarkably like you. Same caftan, same cracked cup held aloft. Puppet you steps to center screen, faces the audience and speaks in your own voice, borrowed, pitch perfect. "I came for warmth, stayed for plot, and left with a coin too heavy to pocket." Your cheeks ignite. How did he harvest your voice? Then you remember the coffee at the well, the coin, the swallow. Apparently, copper is also a microphone. Puppet you continues. "If joy is outlawed, let us be outlaws of joy, brewing in caves, laughing in code, clinking cups like keys." The real audience sighs, some wipe eyes. Puppet you tosses the miniature cup into the air. It becomes a real, full-sized cup descending from the beam. A catcher, human, finally visible, snags it and pours fresh coffee into 12 waiting thimbles. They pass the thimbles along the rows, relay faster than gossip. When one reaches you, it's still steaming. You drink. The room tastes brave. The performance ends with all puppets dancing in a circle, holding hands like paper snowflakes at recess. Their shadows merge into one giant being, which then morphs into the crescent moon. Lamps snuffed. Darkness. Applause turns to whispered cheers, then to quiet so thick you hear foam collapsing in cups. Lights rekindle. Low, practical. The audience rises, dispersing toward hidden exits behind tapestries, under benches, through a hearth that swivels. The veiled woman brushes past, slips a warm packet into your sash, smells like roasted liberation. For later, she breathes, when the night needs an encore. She and Kat vanish up a stair you hadn't seen. You stand, head buzzing with narrative caffeine. The storyteller appears in person, eyes twinkling like lamps that know they're next to be extinguished. "Enjoyed your cameo?" he asks. "I've been typecast as myself," you reply, surprising both of you with the joke. He chuckles, offers a cloth pouch. Inside, tiny shadow puppets, hero spoon, vizier, abacus, green governor, flat as regrets. "Souvenirs," he says. "Also instructions." He taps the cloth. Embroidered darts form a map. "Follow the bean trail after curfew. Music meets shadow at intersection of drum and drumstick." You pocket the pouch, both thanks. Somewhere above, boots scuff. Real guards, real curfew, real trouble. The storyteller extinguishes the last lamp, plunging cellar into velvet. A hand, presumably his, guides you through a curtain, down a passage that smells of damp scripts and heart exits. At a final doorway he whispers, "Remember, every shadow once stood in light. Decide whose silhouette you want to be." Then he's gone, leaving you holding a bean-shaped glow, phosphorescent paint on cloth, just enough light to navigate stairs upward toward whatever version of morning still allows coffee. Behind, you hear the cedar door thud, the lock click, and the faint clack of an abacus calculating how long before laughter gets confiscated again. You climb, pockets rattling with puppets, pulse conducting an overture you're pretty sure will be performed after curfew, drums invited. The stairs deliver you into an alley so narrow the moon has to file its nails sideways to fit. Phosphorescent bean light fades. You pocket the cloth, let night reclaim her anonymity. Somewhere beyond the rooftops, boots gather, first in pairs, then in platoons, like raindrops learning choreography. You recognize the rhythm, Janissaries rehearsing a raid they haven't announced to the victims. A hand, small, sticky with date syrup, grabs your sleeve. It belongs to a boy maybe 10, eyes wide as coffee saucers. "They're drilling again," he whispers, as if repeating an adult phrase he's been told never to say loudly. "Want to watch? It's prettier than fireworks and quieter than consequences." You consider declining, but your feet are already following. Curiosity is a terrible chaperone. He leads you up an external stair that wobbles like a drunk lute string. Roofline levels out into a terrace carpeted with drying figs, their syrupy scent mixing with gun oil and starlight. From here, you see the parade ground, a moon-washed plaza where silhouettes march in squares, swords blunt but egos sharpened. They chant, low and guttural, find the foam, seize the steam, lock the laughter. Each syllable lands in time with stamps that make the tiled roof beneath you click like nervous teeth. The boy produces a heel of bread, offers half, you accept. It tastes of honey and borrowed time. Between marching blocks, you spot him. The governor, pistachio robes swapped for midnight indigo, still green enough to glow. He strides alongside a taller figure, the raid commander, helmet plume flicking like an annoyed cat. They pause. The governor gestures toward various alleys, one of them yours. A map is unrolled, Even from this distance, you see red X's peppered like cayenne across districts you now call familiar. The boy nudges. They practice every week. Mama says it's ballet for bullies. He chews, unconcerned. But they always miss our street. We hum too loud. You ask what he means. He grins, cups hands around mouth and releases a hum, middle C, steady, small. From nearby rooftops, other hums answer, weaving into a chord that feels like a blanket tucked around the city's shoulders. The marching below falters. Someone loses step. Laughter ripples through the ranks before an officer barks it dead. See, the boy says. Music makes their knees forget orders. You store the fact like sugar in cheek. Below, the commander claps. Troops divide into squads, each assigned a different mark door. They rehearse entry, shoulder bash, fan out, confiscate imaginary cups, arrest invisible smiles. One soldier mimes tasting vapor, staggers dramatically, his comrades snort. Even practice contains comedy. The governor does not laugh. He produces a pocket hourglass, flips it. Sand rushes like gossip late for mass. Timing is everything, his posture says. When the last grain falls, he raises a hand. All motion freezes, statues with heartbeat. He speaks, wind carries fragments. Tomorrow night, real doors, no hesitation. Your stomach performs a small backflip. The underground concert, the puppet cellar, the hidden well, they're on tomorrow's menu, and the governor plans to serve warrants instead of dessert. The boy tugs. We should go. When the hourglass ends, they shoot blanks at the moon. Loud. He's already sliding down a drain pipe with the confidence of someone who's done this since diapers. You follow, less gracefully, figs squishing under soles. On ground level, he leads you through a maze of blankets hung to dry, sheets monogrammed by moonlight, smelling of soap and secrets. Midway, he stops, parts a cloth doorway, reveals a hidden nook, crates, carpets, and a tiny brazier cradling a copper pot. Mama's emergency brew, he explains. Sip. You glance at curfew dark alleys, listen for boots, none yet, you nod. He pours, half a thimble each. Even so, the taste detonates, cardamom forward, smoke trailing, finish of childhood you never lived. You ruffle his hair, he allows it, dignified. From the distance comes the first blank shot, pop, followed by collective roar as soldiers cheer their moon hit. The boy winces. Show-offs. He caps the brazier, stores cups in a box that once held saffron, still fragrant. Come, I'll walk you to the humming street. After that, your music's problem. You traverse 3 alleys, each quieter than the last. At the final corner he stops, points to a narrow lane where windows flicker with candlelight and soft drumming leaks under doors. They rehearse too, he says, but ours ends in claps, not shackles. You thank him. He shrugs, already disappearing into shadow the way only children and cats can. Bring earplugs tomorrow, he calls back, voice muffled by linen night. Or better, bring extra cups, we'll need them. Alone, you listen. The lane hums, literally, a low, communal arm that vibrates your ribcage like friendly plumbing. Behind it, the gentle clack of finger cymbals, the hush of slippers, the occasional laugh quickly stifled, not by fear but by concentration. Rehearsal for counter-raid, you realize, though no one marches. They dance, quietly, defiantly, barefoot on stone. You adjust your sash, check that puppets, pestle, and phantom coin are accounted for. Then you step into the humming street, adding your voice to the chord, middle C, shaky but sincere. Somewhere above, boots continue their geometric tantrum. But down here, the pavement keeps a different time signature, one the governor's hourglass hasn't learned to count. Tomorrow night, 2 armies will converge, one seeking foam to seize, the other offering steam to share. You walk toward the candlelight, heartbeats syncing with finger cymbals, wondering which side of the raid you'll be on when the sand runs out. The humming street finally exhales you into a back courtyard where laundry hangs like prayer flags printed with coffee rings. You curl up on a pile of folded carpets, meaning to rest your eyes for the length of a heartbeat, but exhaustion brews stronger than any bean, and you drift into a dream of drums whispering lullabies. Next thing you know, light the color of weak tea sneaks over the rooftops, and someone is shaking your shoulder. It's the lace-veiled woman from the puppet cellar. Her cat is already perched on your stomach, tail flicking in 6/8. "Announcement," she says, voice soft as over steeped silk. "They posted it early." She hands you a sheet still damp from the printer's ink, though there is no printer, only a scribe with wrists cramping somewhere nearby. The crest of the sublime port glares at the top. The text below is shorter than you feared, longer than you hoped. By order of His Excellency, the Governor, all coffee houses, tea houses, and associated dens of froth are hereby suspended for the period of 15 days, extendable to forever. Possession of brewing apparatus to be considered sedition. Informants rewarded with 10 spurs per reported cup. Laughter after midnight subject to confiscation. Your first reaction is semantic. Suspended sounds so gentle, like hammocks or disbelief, not the surgical removal of public joy. Your second reaction is gastric. The swallowed coin gives a nauseous flip, as if reminded of its own illegality. Around you, neighbors read, murmur, fold paper into cranes, then think better and crease them into tiny cups, marking symbols too small to arrest. The woman lifts her veil enough to sip from an invisible rim. "Paper can't hold liquid," she mutters, "or authority." A boy, different from last night's rooftop guide, appears with a crate of green beans. Panic rises, possession, sedition, 15 days plus civic frown interest. But the woman simply drapes her shawl over the crate, turns to you. "We anticipated. Beans are already ghosts." She explains, last night while soldiers rehearsed, volunteers emptied every visible sack into hidden barrels, replacing them with chickpeas painted to resemble beans. "Governor will confiscate legumes of mass illusion," she says, deadpan. You laugh. The cat glares, laughing is now taxable. From the main street comes the sound of officialdom. Boots, drums. A herald reading the ban aloud, voice cracking under the weight of its own ridiculousness. People drift toward the square, faces arranged in neutral. An expression between boredom and low-grade mourning you recognize from modern Monday mornings. You join the flow, cat trailing like a furry secret. The square looks smaller in daylight, Kabul's sweating mist. On the marble fountain, the governor stands in fresh pistachio silk, turban taller than yesterday, as if authority were measured in centimeters of linen. He raises a hand, sound folds. "Citizens," he begins, "we cleanse the palate of society. Bitter brews foster bitter thoughts. Sweetness will return once obedience is properly roasted." His metaphor mixer is clearly broken, but the guards look impressed. Behind him, Janissaries stack confiscated paraphernalia, copper parts, tiny cups, a few sad brass grinders still coughing grounds. One soldier holds aloft a wooden spoon like a captured flag. The governor gestures. The spoon is snapped over a knee. The crowd gasps, half horror, half theater etiquette. Then comes the parade of shame, café owners led in cuffs, heads lowered, some wearing placards that read "Purveyor of Froth" in calligraphy too elegant for insult. Among them you spot the coppersmith who handed you the first cup, the well-woman, the oud player from the prison orchestra. Their eyes scan the crowd, seeking solidarity. You feel each glance land like a drip of hot coffee on skin. The governor produces the same hourglass from last night, sets it on a pedestal. 15 days, he declares, flipping it. Sand begins its journey, grain by obedient grain. A hush falls, thick as unsweetened brew. But somewhere in that hush another sound germinates, a low hum, middle C, the rooftop chord. It starts small, one voice, then two, then a cluster. The governor's ears twitch. He scans, cannot locate source. The hum floats everywhere and nowhere like smell with wings. His face hardens. Dispersal, he orders. Soldiers fan out, pushing people towards side streets. The hum continues, follows like friendly fog. You join, adding your voice, feeling the thread on your wrist vibrate. The cat, cradled now by the lace-veiled woman, purrs an octave above, providing descant. As the square empties, citizens convert the hum into whispered lyrics. Old lullabies, coffeehouse poems, market jokes. Words are muffled, but intent is clear, prohibition acknowledged, mockery served lukewarm. You pass the broken spoon lying in the dust. Without thinking, you stoop, pocket a splinter, roughly cup handle shaped. A souvenir, a seed, a reminder that even utensils can be martyrs. Back in the alley, the woman exhales. Phase 1 complete, she says. You wait for explanation. She shrugs. They took the bait, visible parts, visible sadness. Now we work invisible. She hands you a new sheet of paper, smaller, softer, smelling of cardamom. On it, a map of cat-sized lanes, a crescent moon sketched at each safe house, and a single line, tonight, foam returns underground. You fold the paper, slip it beside the spoon splinter. Around you, the city rearranges itself the way a barista swirls milk, subtle, purposeful. Shutters close, doors crack, eyes exchange passwords written in steam. The governor's herald continues shouting clauses in the distance, voice hoarse, each decree landing like a rock on water. Splash, ripple, forgotten. Because beneath the ripple, currents already move, beans hidden in flour sacks, grinders buried in coal piles, laughter disguised as coughs. You breathe in, dry earth jasmine, distant sea. You breathe out, a thin plume shaped like hope. Somewhere sand falls in an hourglass, measuring nothing but its own shrinking. 15 days. History sometimes flips faster than an omelet. The woman touches your sleeve. Rest. Tonight we roast. She and cat disappear behind laundry. You stand alone, tasting the future, bitter, sweet, very lightly illegal. The alley empties faster than a cup knocked over by an elbow, leaving you with the echo of the woman's promise. Tonight we roast. Your stomach, still negotiating terms with the copper coin, flips at the thought. You duck beneath a line of drying sheets, their floral print blooming in the morning sun like camouflage for daydreams. Somewhere behind them, a door stands ajar, just enough to wink. You slip inside and find yourself in a storeroom that smells of rice, raisins, and quiet conspiracy. Sacks are stacked taller than your regrets, each stamped with bureaucratic confidence. Flour imperial grade. A skinny man with an ink-stained finger presses against his lips, SHH. He produces a small trowel, digs into the base of the nearest sack. Out pours not flour but green coffee beans, their aroma fresher than a new secret. He refills the hole with actual flour, pats it smooth, and marks the sack with an innocuous chalk squiggle. A bean glyph disguised as inventory error. He gestures you closer, hands you the trowel. Your turn, he whispers, as if offering a sacrament. You kneel, repeat the process, dig, pour beans, disguise, squiggle. The repetition feels archaeological. Pharaohs hiding caffeine for the afterlife. When 5 sacks are seeded, he leads you through a curtain of burlap into a courtyard where chickens roam like feathered auditors, pecking at nothing with official persistence. In the center, A dry well, waist-high rim, stone mouth open like a patient gargoyle. A rope dangles inside, tied to a bucket long cracked. The man pulls up the rope. Attached is not a bucket but a wineskin stuffed with more cups. Porcelain copper, one carved from walnut, each wrapped in fig leaves. He uncorks the skin, adds your cracked cup to the collection. They'll sleep here till curfew lifts, he says. Even ceramics need naps. You picture tiny cup snores, steam puffing like dream clouds, and almost laugh. Then remember laughter tariffs. Instead, you salute with the trowel. He grins, pockets it, hands you a walnut cup as consolation prize. Souvenir, he says. Also decoy. You weigh it, light, hollow, perfect for smuggling a single sip or a very small wish. From the chicken coop, a girl of maybe 8 emerges cradling something swaddled in cloth. She unfolds layers to reveal a brass grinder no longer than her forearm, gears slim as cricket legs. Grandmothers, she boasts. She ground rebellion and cardamom in equal parts. The man ruffles her hair. We'll bury it next, he tells you. Under the rosemary, soldiers hate herbs that remind them of dinner. Together you dig a shallow trench beside the herb plot. Chickens supervise, clucking critiques about depth and feng shui. Grinder nestled, you replace soil, pat rosemary back on top. The girl sprinkles extra leaves so the spot looks deliberately gardened, hiding in plain aroma. Task complete, the man produces a tiny ibrick, pours 3 thimbles of thick coffee from nowhere. Apparently pockets can brew if you believe hard enough. You sip. Flavor tastes of risk and rosemary futures. No one speaks. Words feel bulkier than silence. After, he leads you to a wooden hatch beneath a carpet. Tunnel to the river, he explains. When time comes, beans travel water instead of roads. You descend a few steps. Damp air kisses your face, smelling of moss and possibility. He passes you a lantern, strikes flint. Wick catches, reveals brick walls sweating history. Follow till torch 2, then turn left. Someone will meet you, he says. Password, roasted, not roasted. You repeat it, sounds like a philosophical hiccup. Before you go, the girl tugs your sleeve. Leave something, she whispers, so the tunnel remembers. You search pockets, walnut cup, spoon splinter, paper map. You choose the splinter, martyred utensil deserves continued adventure. You wedge it into a mortar gap. She nods approval, solemn as a notary. Lantern in hand, you start walking. Echoes of your footsteps sound like hesitant applause. Behind, the hatch closes, carpet flaps, chickens resume pecking, as if no contraband ever passed through their coop. At torch 2, you turn left and almost trip over a barrel cooper napping against his work. He blinks, yawns, recognizes password before you speak. Maybe your posture smells of rosemary. He stands, stretches, produces a mallet. One tap, he says, and the barrel bottom becomes boat. You peer inside, staves sealed with pitch, already shaped like a chubby canoe. He loads it with waterproof sacks, more beans, you assume, or possibly puppet understudies. River's high, he notes. Current will sing you to the cave by dusk. He doesn't ask if you swim. Presumably the barrel negotiates buoyancy for you. You climb in, knees to chin, lantern hooked to inner hoop. He nails a lid loosely. Air gaps left for breathing and bragging. Push, roll, splash. Water temperature introduces itself, brisk, conversational. Barrel spins once, then drifts. You hear the cooper's farewell. May your roast be even. It's the nicest thing anyone's wished you all week. Darkness paddles with you, broken only by lantern glow reflecting off water and your own widened eyes. Current hums the same middle C the rooftops taught you. You hum back, voice vibrating against wood. Somewhere above, soldiers count beans that aren't beans. Down here, actual beans ride inside a barrel with a human seasoning. History, you decide, is just a recipe nobody agreed to follow. Drift, float, contemplate. Time liquefies. You doze, wake to the sound of distant drums. Practice again, or perhaps the overture to tonight's clandestine roast. The barrel picks up speed, cave mouth appears ahead, a yawn carved into cliff. Torches flicker inside, orange against morning blue sky. You brace for landing, palms flat to wood, heart beating in time with water slapping staves. As the current sucks you into the cave, you imagine cups waking underground, grinders stretching cricket legs, chickens writing memoirs. The tunnel remembers the splinter. You remember the password. Barrel kisses sand. Lid lifts. Cool air rushes in smelling of cardamom and damp rock. You step out, shoes squelching, lantern swinging, eyes adjusting to a chamber lined with sacks of beans stacked like treasure chests. A figure approaches, familiar silhouette, treble clef nose. He smiles, produces a ladle. "Welcome," he says, "to the vault. Ready to wake the roast?" You nod, still clutching the walnut cup. Somewhere behind, water laps, chickens probably report to duty, and the governor counts sacks of chickpeas, unaware that flavor is mobilizing beneath his boots. The cave is taller than a minaret laid on its side, its ceiling furred with bats who sleep through revolutions because politics taste less interesting than insects. Torches gutter every 10 paces, throwing orange ladders across sacks of beans that reach rib height and whisper when you brush them, like shy children practicing their first words. Treble clef nose man, who finally introduces himself simply as Nay, guides you between the stacks, palm hovering an inch above burlap as if taking attendance. "Every bean remembers the branch it left," he murmurs. "Our job is to remind it of the fire it will meet." His voice echoes, warm and papery, mixing with cave breath that smells of damp limestone and distant cardamom. You inhale and feel your lungs file the aroma under future cravings. We reach a natural platform of rock where copper tools gleam, a drum roaster big enough to bathe a toddler, a hand-crank grinder whose gears are etched with tiny crescent moons, and a row of cauldrons wearing quilted coats to keep their secrets warm. A child, different from the Rosemary girl, this one freckled and serious, fans a charcoal bed beneath the roaster. Sparks rise like ideas whose time has not quite come. Nay hands you a wooden paddle. "First duty, listen." He pours a sieve of green beans onto the drum and begins to turn. The sound is rainfall on a tin roof heard from under blankets, comforting, percussive, secret. As drum spins, beans tumble, losing dust and gaining courage. I edge closer. Heat licks your face, friendly at first, then assertive. A faint grassy smell lifts, the scent of unmade coffee. Raw, almost shy, like a poem before metaphors. You close your eyes and realize this is the opposite of the governor's hourglass. Here, time is added, not subtracted. Minutes stretch. Color shifts, lime to straw to tan to the decisive brown that says, "I have opinions now." First crack arrives, like pine cones popping or distant muskets saluting a truce. The child giggles. Nay nods. You keep paddling, circulating heat the way rumors circulate in markets. Swift, even slightly addictive. Between cracks, Nay tells stories. How coffee once replaced wine in Sufi rituals because sobriety made whirling less wobbly. How a previous sultan executed 2 roasters for over-caramelizing, then missed their flavor so much he pardoned a third to perfect the medium roast. Leaders fear what they cannot grind, he concludes, but beans forgive fire. Second crack approaches, softer, more conspiratorial. You're now part alchemist, part babysitter to chemistry. Beans darken. Oils surface like tiny mirrors reflecting torchlight. You glimpse your face in one such mirror, soot-smudged, eyes wide, ridiculous grin. You look, you realize, like someone who has begun to matter in a timeline that isn't theirs. Roast done, Nay tips the drum, beans cascade into a wide copper pan, cooling under the child's fanning. Aroma fills the cave, so rich even the bats stir, sniff, consider insomnia. You inhale until you feel your thoughts put on velvet slippers. Next, grinding. The etched grinder is clamped to a rock shelf. You pour beans, turn the handle. Resistance at first, like winding a clock that doubts morning. Then smoothness, surrender, powder pooling into a wooden drawer painted with nightingales. The sound is rainfall graduating into applause. While you grind, others arrive, the owd youth from the prison orchestra, the veiled woman minus veil, her face younger than her eyes. The rooftop boy carrying a lantern shaped like a tulip that's been punched in the petals. Mock governor effigy. They greet you with nods that feel familial. Together we build the fire for brewing, olive wood at the base, a lattice of cinnamon sticks, a dome of charcoal whispering promises. A cauldron is filled with water drawn from a spring that pops out of cave wall, cold enough to make your teeth feel aristocratic. You set it to heat. Waiting, we form an assembly line. One measures grounds, one tends flame, one spoons sugar kept soft in waxed paper, one warms tiny cups by nesting them inside larger ones. Russian doll hospitality. No one leads. The process conducts itself, like birds agreeing on V formation without middle management. Water heats, tiny bubbles appear, first the size of pinheads. Nay calls them anxious, then peas curious, then eyes of needle wise. At the wise stage, you sprinkle coffee directly onto surface. It blooms, dark island on a copper sea, then sinks, dissolving into solution the way rumors dissolve into history. You lower heat, wait for the second rise, foam gathers, tawny, trembling. This is the moment governors fear, you think, when liquid grows a voice. You catch it just before it boils over, lift the cauldron, set it aside to settle like letting anger nap. Into the hush, Nay produces a ladle small enough to serve mice. He fills the first cup, porcelain, cracked, yours. Steam writes calligraphy across your face. You can't read it, but your pores feel flattered. You sip. Flavor arrives in layers. Dusk of cardamom, trumpet of cedar smoke, brown sugar finish that lingers like the last guest at a party who helps wash dishes. Somewhere between second and third swallow, you feel the cave rearrange its limestone around your heartbeat. Connection, thick as mud, sweet as conspiracy. We pass the cup clockwise, ritual older than passports. Each person drinks, closes eyes, exhales a sound between sigh and hymn. When the cup returns to you, it is empty but warm, like a bed after someone beloved has slept in it. From outside comes the muffled boom of surf against rock, and farther, the faint clatter of morning patrols beginning their census of absent laughter. But down here, aroma coats the air like varnish, sealing us into a moment the governor can't subpoena. Nay places a hand on your shoulder. "Smell that?" he asks. You do, unmade coffee no longer. This is coffee fully awakened, and it smells like a map scribbled in invisible ink. "Follow it," he says. It leads back to the city through locked doors, up tower stairs, into cups waiting to remember they're alive. You nod, throat thick with gratitude and grounds. The child offers you a burlap satchel, 20 small tins, lid soldered, each stamped with a crescent no bigger than a fingernail. "Transport," she explains. 1 tin per safe house. Open only under candlelight. You sling the satchel across your chest. It settles like a baby who trusts the world again. Around you, everyone resumes positions, roaster cranked, grinder kissed with fresh beans, water measured for the next batch. Production, yes, but also prayer, repetition as devotion. As you prepare to leave, Nay presses a tiny bean into your palm, pale, unroasted, still believing it's a seed. Plant somewhere impassable, he says. When in doubt, grow your own exit. You pocket it beside the walnut cup, the paper map, the copper coin conducting its own orchestra in your gut. Upstream, the tunnel mouth waits, water glinting like a path of spilled mirrors. You step toward it, satchel heavy with aroma, shoes squelching, heart keeping 10/8 time. Behind, the cave inhales smoke, exhales possibility. You glance back once, silhouettes against firelight, hands passing cups, steam rising like prayers the ceiling hoards for later. The smell of made coffee follows you, a loyal ghost, whispering that somewhere above, the governor counts chickpeas while destiny grinds on. The river passage spits you out beneath a willow that droops like it's eavesdropping on eternity. You clamber onto a stone lip, boots slapping wet applause. Dawn is still a rumor. The sky holds its breath, the color of weak coffee diluted by indecision. Across the water, Istanbul's hills rise, windows flickering with early lamps, each a possible conspirator, each possibly reporting to pistachio authority. You check the satchel, 20 tins intact, aroma leaking just enough to make the willow sniff and reconsider photosynthesis. The walnut cup bounces against your ribs, empty but optimistic. Somewhere inside, the coin settles, still digesting its own illegality. A path of broken pavers leads uphill between walled gardens. You take it, mind rehearsing routes from the embroidered map, third almond tree, left at the iron gate shaped like a tulip with measles. Count 17 stones, knock. Passwords flutter in your head like moths trapped in a lantern. 17 stones later you face a door the color of over-steeped tea, knocker fashioned into a tiny coffee pot. Says, you now know, its handle curled into a question mark. You lift, let it fall, 3 short, 2 long, 1 short. The pattern feels like Morse for let me in before courage cools. Silence. Then a slit opens at eye level, reveals a single eyebrow raised to cathedral height. You whisper, roasted, not roasted. The eyebrow lowers, apparently satisfied. Bolts slide, groan, give. You enter. Inside, a courtyard compressed into a corridor, walls draped with carpets that muffle the world. A woman. Same eyes as the lace-veiled conspirator, but older, veil now silver, gestures follow. She walks ahead, hips keeping time with some internal drum you swear you heard in the cave. At the far end, another door, smaller, child-sized. She taps twice, waits, taps once. Childlike logic. It swings inward, releasing a puff of air so saturated with cardamom you taste it on your teeth. You bend, step through, and emerge into a room that shouldn't fit but does, oval, low ceiling, pillows stacked like gossip. In the center sits a brass tray bearing a single copper sieve, steam rising in lazy calligraphy. Around it 5 cups, each cracked in deliberate patterns. Lightning, river, branch, vein, road. Yours, lightning, waits empty, as if expecting your return from a long, watery commute. The woman points to a cushion. You sit. The satchel is lifted gently, tins counted, each stamped with approval. She pours. Foam blooms, tawny, perfect. You sip. The room tilts a degree more welcoming. From behind a curtain of beads steps a man you almost recognize, then realize it's the governor's scribe, the one who snapped the wooden spoon yesterday. But tonight he wears indigo, no insignia, and his mustache droops in relaxed rather than imperial fashion. He nods, offers a tiny wax tablet. On it a list, addresses, times, tiny sketches of tulips, spoons, crescent moons. A delivery roster. You point to yourself, courier. He nods, adds a 6th sketch. your lightning crack beside the first address, House of the Three Deaf Sisters, Noon. You shrug, sure, deafness sounds safe. They won't report foam they can't hear. Silver Veil Woman produces a belt of soft leather. Tins slide into hidden sleeves, snug as beans in parchment. She buckles it around your waist. The weight settles like a hug from someone who knows gravity intimately. She ties a new crimson thread over the old one, double security, or maybe friendship bracelet forged in sedition. Scribe Governor, ex-governor, leans close. Each door has a breath, he whispers. Wait for inhale before you knock. You store the metaphor, wondering how long a house can hold its breath. A clock somewhere coughs. You realize morning is advancing and you've yet to sleep. The woman offers a cot behind a screen. You collapse, clothes still damp, satchel now pillow. Before eyes shut, you hear the scribe practicing knocks on wood, soft, syncopated, like a drummer learning lullabies. You dream of doors inhaling, exhaling, sneezing you into alleys that rearrange themselves nightly. In the dream, the governor's hourglass flips sideways, sand spilling into streets, piling into dunes that smell like cardamom. People ski down them, laughing, no tax collector in sight. A gentle shake wakes you. Sun high, room empty except for the woman and a fresh sezv. She pours again, smaller cup, stronger brew, flavor like a telegram from last night's dream. She gestures to the belt, 17 tins left. One delivery complete. You don't remember leaving, but your shoes are dustier and the lightning crack cup now sits clean, as if it went on its own errand and returned smug. She leads you to a side door, kisses both cheeks, mother of conspiracy, patron saint of aroma. Next house likes tulips, hates questions, she warns. You nod, rehearse knock, 2 short, pause, 3 long, password, foam is form is foam. Philosophy disguised as nonsense, perfect. Door opens to blinding daylight. You step out, blinking, belt snug, heart syncopated. The city awaits, sand still falling somewhere, beans buried like treasure in sacks, pillows, barrels, rosemary beds. You are the map now, scented, cracked, trusted. Knock, breathe, deliver. Repeat until prohibition drowns in its own hourglass. You walk, pockets rattling with puppets, coin, walnut cup, and a bean that believes it's still a seed. Somewhere a door inhales. You head toward the sound, footsteps quiet, aroma quieter, confidence loud. The second house is supposed to like tulips and hate questions, but the only thing greeting you is a door the color of overcooked okra and a knocker shaped like a pawn missing its ego. You wait for the alleged inhale. Nothing. Maybe houses hold their breath when strangers loiter. You try the coded knock anyway, 2 short, pause, 3 long. Silence. You shift weight, rehearse the philosophy password, feel instantly ridiculous. Just as you're about to retreat, the door yawns inward, revealing a corridor so narrow you could butter it and still not turn around. A voice, female, mid-Atlantic accent that hasn't been invented yet, says enter and mind the bishops. Inside, the corridor widens into a low room lit by 1 candle stub, standing on a chessboard like a lighthouse in a sea of ivory and ebony. Shadows of pieces loom 2 stories tall on the walls. Every pawn looks like it's plotting parole. At the board sits a man old enough to remember previous bans on laughter, possibly even on breathing. His beard is white foam frozen mid-spill. His eyes are roasted almonds, but the unsalted kind, mild, forgiving. He gestures to the empty chair. Delivery, he asks. You nod, unhook a tin from the belt, slide it across. He lifts the lid, inhales, smiles the way grandfathers do when babies finally burp. Medium roast, hint of cedar, approved. Only then does he introduce himself, Qasim, custodian of openings. He flicks a pawn forward. Sit. Play. The house requires a toll of thought. You claim white because it feels diplomatic. Your opening, king's pawn, straightforward, honest. He answers with the Sicilian, naturally. Everyone in this city prefers spice. Moves pass like slow seconds on the governor's hourglass. Between moves you sip from a thimble cup he produces, same brew you delivered, poured back into porcelain so thin you can see candlelight through it. Meta, but tasty. 5 moves in, you realize the pieces are carved from 2 woods. Ebony smells of cardamom, ivory of roasted hazelnut. The board itself exudes faint steam when a piece lands hard. Someone embedded grounds beneath the varnish, heat of play releasing aroma. You wonder if losing smells worse than winning. Qasim talks in chess notation as if gossiping about neighbors. The queen on d4 remembers when she was just a coffee cherry. The knight had a past life as a grinder handle, explains the jumping. You laugh. Candle stub flickers, insulted. Mid-game he asks, "How goes the map?" You show the embroidered scrap. He studies, nods toward a back room. Next address is through there, but only after checkmate or resignation. House rules. You suspect he's never resigned in his life. You consider strategy, deliver beans, survive game, exit before governor's sand runs out. Multitasking across centuries is exhausting. You attempt a fork. Knight attacks queen and rook. Qasim chuckles, moves king 1 square as if dodging gossip. Good, he says, but can you do it quietly? He gestures at the ceiling. You hear boots pacing upstairs. Patrol. Candlelight throws their shadows through floorboard cracks, elongating legs into monstrous stilts that could stomp the board flat. You lower your voice, capture the rook with exaggerated silence, place it beside the board like a prisoner under house arrest. Aroma puffs. Hazelnut, bittersweet. The patrol pauses overhead, a floorboard creaks, dust drifts down like disapproving confetti. Qasim freezes, hand hovering over his queen. You both hold breath, wait for the inhale you were warned about. House inhales, boots move on. He exhales, continues. Chess is like Prohibition. Every move restricts future moves, yet freedom lives in choice of restriction. You murmur agreement, though your brain feels like a pawn trying to comprehend promotion. Endgame arrives. Your queen and rook versus his crafty king and passed pawn. You realize losing might be faster. You contemplate hanging your rook intentionally, but that feels like bribing the plot. Instead, you find a perpetual check. Repeat, repeat, eternal shuffle. You demonstrate. He smiles. Draw, he declares. The middle path, neither victory nor defeat, just continuation. He stands, offers a handshake smelling of cedar and old victories. Only then does the rear door creak open, revealing a staircase spiraling down into darkness that smells of hot sugar and paper. He hands you an unlit candle, nods toward the stairs. Follow till you smell roses, turn left till you smell ink. Deliver there. Password, stalemate is sweeter than mate. You repeat it. Sounds like something a pacifist knight would embroider on a saddle. Before you go, he pockets the captured rook, pats it affectionately. Even losses can be souvenirs, he says. You realize the entire game was a toll of perspective, not victory. You bow, descend. Behind, the door closes. Candle stub upstairs probably snuffs itself. Board cools, aroma hibernates. You wind down. Steps soft, belt clinking softly with remaining tins. Somewhere below, roses and ink wait, mixed with the scent of unmade coffee still clinging to your clothes like a loyal ghost. You count stairs. 33, the age of a legendary storyteller who vanished mid-sentence. At 34, the air warms, adopts a floral top note. You breathe, turn left, and head toward whatever version of checkmate prefers in quells to swords. Ink arrives first, sharp, iron-rich, followed by roses that smell like they've been reading poetry alone too long. You emerge into a cellar scriptorium, low, vaulted ceiling, shelves of scrolls wearing woolen socks to keep the damp from nibbling parchment. Candles gutter inside blue glass, turning flame into liquid sapphire that drips onto pools of hardened wax shaped like accidental continents. At a central desk sits a woman whose turban is stacked higher than reasonable Jenga. She doesn't look up. She's licking the end of a reed pen the way chefs taste spoons, deliberately professionally. Around her, open jars hold nibs labeled by aroma, clove, saffron, sandalwood, cardamom. She dips, writes, inhales, sighs, dips again, perfumed calligraphy. You clear your throat. She raises one finger, wait, finishes a flourish that smells of nutmeg, deciding to confess. Only then does she regard you through spectacles carved from amber. Delivery, she states, not asks. You slide a tin across parchment scattered with coffee ground constellations. She cracks the lid, sniffs once, and her pupils dilate like curtains at showtime. Medium city roast, cedar finish, hint of pomegranate skin. Yesterday's batch, third drum, she declares. You gape. She's accurate to the comma. She notices your expression, smiles the way librarians smile when someone finally asks the right question. I memorize flavor the way others memorize scripture. Taste is text. Text is taste. Introductions follow. She is Dr. Nihil, chief archivist of edible history. Her life's work, a compendium linking every bean to the soil, tree, season, and political mood of its harvest. Beans, she says, are gossip from the earth. Ignore them at your governance's peril. You ask why roses and ink. She gestures to the walls, drying pages clipped like laundry. Rosewater preserves parchment from silverfish. Ink preserves thought from oblivion. Coffee preserves people from both. Practical poetry. She invites you to sit, produces a tasting setup, miniature ibrick, charcoal the size of candied almonds, and cups so thin you can read footnotes through them. She brews your delivered batch again, eyes closed, reciting notes as they appear. First crack of dawn flavor, mid-palate of bureaucratic panic, finish of clandestine hope. You sip. She's narrating your week. Between sips, she asks for news. You share rooftop hums, chickpea decoys, walnut cup, swallowed coin. She records everything in a ledger bound in leather the color of over-brewed coffee. Her pen scratches, releasing ink that smells faintly of cardamom. She's mixed grounds into the pigment. History should smell of itself, she explains. Future scholars will thank me or sneeze eternally. You notice a scroll labeled Prohibition Chronology, annotated by aroma. She unrolls it, vertical timeline dotted with tiny glued beans. 1633 is marked by a shriveled green bean. 1634, a darker specimen. 1635, blank, bean removed, whole remaining. Gap years, she says, when fear outranked flavor. We're stitching them back. She affixes today's roasted bean beside 1633 with a dab of rose-scented glue. Evidence, she whispers, that even bands can be brewed over. Footsteps echo overhead, boots more than one pair. She freezes, extinguishes burner, covers brazier with a brass lid shaped like a sleeping tortoise. Light dims. You both become shadows holding breath. A slit of daylight appears at the top of a stair. You hadn't noticed it before. Outlines a soldier's silhouette, helmet like tulip gone square. He descends 3 steps, sniffs, hesitates. Dr. Nihil raises a jar of saffron ink, wafts it upward. The sweet pigment confuses the air. The soldier sneezes, decides scent is official, retreats. Boots fade. She exhales. Saffron, cheaper than bribes, prettier than surrender. You store the tactic next to rosemary decoys and rooftop hums. Before you leave, she gifts two objects first, a thumbnail-sized book. Pages made from pressed coffee filter fibers, bound with silk from puppets' costumes. Inside, condensed flavor thesaurus, coded symbols for earth, smoke, fruit, panic, hope. For tasting on the run, she says, read with tongue, not eyes. Second gift, a transparent glass bean, empty, sealed. For the future, she says, fill with aroma of the day freedom is declared. One sniff will resurrect morning. You pocket both items next to walnut cup and conspiratorial coin. Exit route, a dumb waiter hidden behind scroll shelves. She cranks you upward into darkness that smells first of ink, then roses, then night air. You emerge between garbage barrels outside a calligraphy school. Stars blink like nibs testing ink. You whisper thanks into the shaft. She replies with a single sniff. Recognition, farewell, good luck. The panel closes. You're alone, belt lighter by one tin, mind heavier by entire flavor library. You inhale city air, salt, fish, distant bread, underlying hum of unmade coffee. Your palate now carries reference cards. Every future sip will be footnoted. Somewhere, sand still falls, but you possess annotated beans, encoded ink, and the certainty that taste can be archived yet remain uncaught. Next address hums in your pocket alongside the glass bean. You walk, footsteps soft, city loud, nose cataloging aromas the way scholars cataloged out. Somewhere ahead, a door waits, probably inhaling, probably rose-scented, probably guarding ink that hasn't dried yet. The ink and rose aftertaste is still doing pirouettes on your tongue when you notice the wall ahead. A fresh poster flapping in the breeze like a bureaucrat trying to dry his hands on public opinion. The paper is pistachio green, of course, bordered with tiny tulips that look embarrassed to be there. At the center, a drawing of a cup spitting foam, and beneath it, in handwriting so pointed it could slice bread, the words, reward. 10 spurs for information leading to the apprehension of any person bearing coffee residue on lip, tooth, or conscience. Report to the nearest patrol. Anonymity guaranteed, guilt optional. You instinctively wipe your mouth. The back of your glove comes away smelling of Dr. Nihil's saffron ink, close enough to cardamom to be suspicious. You tuck the glove into your belt, promise your upper lip to stay poker straight. Bootsteps approach. 2 pairs, maybe 3. You melt into a doorway shaped like a question mark, watch a patrol pass, helmets dulled by night, one soldier idly scratching his mustache as if it owes him money. They pause under the poster, laugh, punch each other's shoulders. 10 spurs is a week's bread and they know it. One glances at your doorway. You become shadow, breathe through your nose to keep steam from testifying. They move on, boots arguing with cobblestones. You exhale, then realize the absurdity. A government so frightened of foam it's willing to pay citizens to spy on upper lips. The phrase guilt optional loops in your head, truth in advertising at least. You picture a line of people at the governor's gate, each pointing at the next, everyone collecting 10 spurs in an endless circle of fiscal farce. A boy, maybe 10, maybe 9 and ambitious, appears at your elbow. He holds a small mirror framed in tin. Check yourself, he whispers, entrepreneurial eyes gleaming. 1 axe per reflection, half price if you buy confidence. You pay, inspect, upper lip clean, but the mirror reveals something else. Tiny copper glint between teeth. The coin shedding. You swish tongue, swallow the metallic flake before it can become Exhibit A. The boy pockets the coin, winks. Remember, he says, foam is form, form is foam. then vanishes, hawking mirrors toward a passing merchant. You decide mirrors are now contraband accessories. You continue, hyper-aware of every passerby, the fishmonger whose apron bears suspicious brown spatters, probably just mulberry. But who audits? The scholar scurrying home, beard smelling of ink and possibly grounds, the cat licking its paw with the dedication of a barrister polishing portafilters. Everyone looks guilty. Paranoia is the new perfume. Mid-street, a hand lands on your shoulder, soft, polite, terrifying. You turn, a woman in widow's black, veil so dense it could hide entire ledgers. She raises a finger to where lips should be, then points to a narrow arcade. You follow because refusal feels impolite and dangerous. Inside the arcade, she produces a tiny vial of milk, shakes it, uncorks. A single bubble forms on the rim. She dabs it behind her ear like perfume. They search for smell, she whispers. Let them find innocence, she offers. You decline. Sour milk is a bridge too far. She shrugs, disappears into flowered darkness. Further along, you spot a makeshift booth. Foam removal won a spur. A barber surgeon with sleeves rolled to his conscience offers customers a choice: rinse, shave, or mask with clove oil. Business is brisk. A line of men wait, lips pursed like disgruntled daisies. One exits, upper lip scarlet from scrubbing, but foam free. He passes a patrol, soldiers nod, semi-respectful. You make note, hygiene as alibi. You consider joining, decide carrying 20 tins of actual coffee makes standing in a police-adjacent queue unwise. You backtrack, take side alleys where lanterns are scarce and shadows generous. A voice hisses from a grate. Hey, traveler, want to buy a mustache net? Catches residue before it testifies. The vendor is unseen, voice echoing like a salesman in a well. You picture fine mesh trapping microscopic foam, imagine shaking it out like dandruff. Decline politely, speed up. Finally, the next address, an apothecary shop shuttered for siesta. Password is supposed to be stalemate is sweeter than mate, but the door stands open, interior dark. You enter, cautious. Shelves of jars, labels written in Latin, Greek, and what might be sarcasm. A bell tinkles, overly cheerful. Behind the counter, a youth wearing apprentice robes 2 sizes too large, sleeves dipped in ink the color of overbrewed sadness. He raises an eyebrow, notices your belt. Foam patrol was here, he says. Took the master for questioning, lip evidence. He points to a microscope on the counter, objective lens aimed at a glass slide bearing a single brown fleck. They're testing grounds now, he adds. Science in service of tyranny. You swallow, feel the remaining coin flake shift, wonder if stomach acid counts as concealment. You offer the password, apprentice shrugs. Master's gone, rules suspended, but aroma still welcome. You hand over a tin, he opens, inhales, eyes glaze like morning windows. Payment is a tiny bottle labeled neutralizer, 1 drop erases scent trail. You pocket it, grateful. He offers a second item, a fake mustache made of goat hair dyed to match most complexions. Wear it, he says. Real foam sticks to fake hair, you peel off evidence, eat it. You stare. He shrugs again. Or feed to pigeons. Their loyalty is breadcrumbs. You thank him. Exit before microscope develops legal opinions. Outside, you daub neutralizer behind ears, on wrists, over lip. Smell vanishes, you feel invisible or at least unseasoned. A patrol turns the corner, you straighten, walk toward them, heart tap dancing. One soldier eyes you, sniffs, frowns. Goat mustache itches but stays attached. He passes, you live. You round another bend and finally allow yourself a grin, then feel a flake of copper detach inside your mouth. You swish, swallow again. The governor's treasury is now 20 spurs poorer, funded by your digestive tract. Poster ahead flaps anew, fresh glue glistening like sap. Someone has drawn a foam mustache on the governor's printed face. Beneath, scrawled in charcoal, 10 spurs if you can find who did this. You almost add your own number, decide anonymity beats profit. Night leans closer. Deliveries await. You adjust goat hair, pat neutralizer, and walk on upper lip clean, conscience dirty, satchel still heavy with tins that could buy a small palace or lose you a head. Price of foam, negotiable. Price of laughter, still unlisted. The goat mustache is starting to feel like a pet that refuses house training, itchy, loyal, conspicuous. You peel it off, pocket the hairy evidence, and follow the map's next embroidered icon, a tiny broom crossed with a spoon. The lane narrows until even your thoughts walk sideways. Walls sweat the scent of jasmine so thick you could spread it on toast. A doorway appears, framed by hanging bouquets of dried mint and receipts of uncertain age. You knock once. No code, just polite curiosity. It swings inward before knuckles meet wood, as if the house has been eavesdropping and decided to speed things up. Standing there is a woman in a house robed the color of coffee 2 shades before burnout. Her veil is pushed up like a window sash, revealing cheekbones that could level empires and eyes practicing understatement. She raises an eyebrow, the universal remote control, and says, "You're late." The foam almost curdled. You offer the password you were given. Stalemate is sweeter than mate. But she waves it away like smoke from an overcooked idea. "I wrote those passwords," she mutters, "back when secrecy felt romantic." She steps aside, lets you enter, closes the door with the gentle click of someone snapping shut a diary. Inside is a kitchen that doubles as espionage headquarters. Copper parts hang lowest. Within kicking reach above them, strings of onions forming Morse against the plaster. A massive cauldron bubbles, but the smell is not food. It's information. Cardamom, clove, something metallic, maybe betrayal. She lifts a ladle, scoops air, sniffs. "My husband thinks I'm brewing dinner. In a way, I am. He's just not invited." She nods toward an adjoining room where you glimpse a low table set for one, porcelain cup, saucer, no spoon, spoons talk too much. You realize the husband in question is likely the governor's deputy, the man who signs warrants while yawning. You've walked into the lioness's pantry. She notices your hesitation, smiles. "Relax. If I wanted you arrested, you'd already be ink on his ledger." To prove goodwill, she hands you a date stuffed with shelled coffee bean. "Dessert first. Insurance second." You chew. Sweetness gives way to bitterness, her marriage in miniature. She produces your tin, not one you carried, but an identical duplicate, already empty. "Sampled at dawn," she says. "Good batch. I'd rate it capable of toppling ministries." She sets it beside the cauldron, refills it from a hidden sack, not beans, but ground saffron, worth more per gram than gossip and twice as volatile. "Decoy," she explains. "If soldiers search, they'll find luxury, not contraband. Luxury bribes better than silence." You hand over your actual tin. She swaps them like a magician substituting doves. The saffron tin now rides your belt, lighter than worry. She records the transfer in a ledger bound in silk, the color of over-creamed coffee. Her handwriting is so small it could hide inside a heartbeat. From her sleeve, she slides a folded paper, sealed with wax imprinted by a tiny spoon. "List," she says. "Names of guards who can be bought with flavor, judges who prefer aroma to evidence, and one imam who believes heaven smells like Ethiopian heirloom." You pocket it next to the neutralizer, and the goat hair mustache now bald like a furry secret. Footsteps approach outside. measured, official, the gait of someone who practices authority in mirrors. She blows out the main lamp. Only coals glow, painting the room in uncertain blush. A knock, too heavy, too light. Husband. She points to a hatch beneath the rugs. You lift, descend into a larder that smells of rice, rosewater, and urgent decisions. She follows, pulls the rug, lowers the hatch. Darkness swallows you both, then she strikes flint, lights a wick floating in a dish of oil. Below is a miniature parlor, cushions, a low table, and a single cup filled with coffee so dark it seems to subtract light. She gestures, sit. We wait, she whispers. He never stays long, he hates the smell of his own absence. From above comes the creak of door, muffled greeting, clink of armor set on tables. Voices, his, peppery, impatient. Hers, suddenly sugar soft, offering dinner, complaining prices, layering innocence like phyllo pastry. You hear footsteps crossing the kitchen, pausing at the cauldron. Still at it, he asks. Still at you, she replies, playful enough to pass, barbed enough to satisfy her pride. Ladle clinks, aroma rises, saffron, not coffee, he inhales, approves. Exotic, he mutters, costly. Worth it, she says. You can almost hear her wink. He mentions tomorrow's raid, extra troops, earlier start, no more puppet shows. Your pulse syncopates. The underground concert, the cave roastery, the shadow plays, all listed for extermination before they've even poured. He asks if she's seen strangers. She yawns. Only you, dear. Boots retreat, door closes, silence drips. She counts to 50, opens hatch, climbs. You follow. The kitchen is empty, but the air holds tension like over steeped tea about to spill. She exhales, pats her heart, then yours. Take the list, she says. Warn who you can. And she lifts the saffron tin. Deliver this to the High Treasurer. He'll think it's a bribe. Actually, it's evidence he accepted one. We'll need leverage after tomorrow. You nod, suddenly understanding marriage as a long game of chess played with pieces that argue back. She opens the back door to a garden where night-blooming jasmine forms a constellation at nose level. Follow the scent, she says. It leads to the river, then to decisions. She kisses both your cheeks, formal, fragrant, final. You step out, door shuts with the soft certainty of a chapter ending. Somewhere inside, she returns to stirring saffron, maybe humming, maybe planning widowhood. In your pocket, names, places, times, and the knowledge that tomorrow's raid just became tonight's emergency. You walk, jasmine guiding like benevolent gossip, heart keeping two rhythms, one for fear, one for flavor. Behind, the house stands quiet, but every window glows faintly, as if the walls themselves are rehearsing an alibi. You adjust the belt, feel tins clink like tiny sabers, and head toward the river to warn musicians, puppeteers, grinders, and cats that the governor's sand is running faster than they think. The wife who knew too much now knows one thing more, you. And somehow that feels safer than ignorance, and more dangerous than foam on any lip. The jasmine trail dies politely at a stone stairway that smells of fish and forgotten amphory. You descend toward the water where the city's reflection wobbles like a painting trying to decide on a mood. The sun is slipping behind domes, bleeding peach into the Bosphorus. Gulls wheel overhead, crying as if practicing tomorrow's headlines. A lone fisherman coils nets. His brazier coughing sparks that taste of anchovy and opportunity. You approach, rehearse the new password. None came with this address, so you opt for honesty wrapped in aroma. From your belt you withdraw one tin, open it just enough to release a curl of cedar and cardamom. The fisherman sniffs, doesn't look up. Throw it or share it, he asks. Share, you say. And borrow your fire. He nods toward an upturned copper shield lying hull up on the sand. Pans ready, mind the scales. You pour green beans into the shield, they rattle like miniature maracas. The fisherman, nameless, toothless, generous, hands you a wooden paddle warped by salt and time. You stir, heat licks upward, friendly then frank. First crack arrives mingled with sizzling fish skin, an accidental surf and turf of aroma. From behind rocks appear others, a boy with a flute, a woman cradling a baby and a tambourine, two teenagers dragging a crate of empty cups. Word travels faster than curfew here. They form a semicircle, watching beans tan like shy sunbathers. No one speaks. The beach is a library of anticipation. You think of the list in your pocket, names of bribable guards, judges who prefer aroma to evidence. One by one you recite them under your breath, let each name ride a plume of smoke toward the gulls. Maybe scent can reach where parchment cannot. Second crack. A cheer ripples, small, sincere. You tip the shield, beans avalanche into a waiting sieve. Steam ghosts upward, carrying gossip to the city. We're still here, we still roast. The fisherman produces a hand crank grinder. The boy keeps rhythm on his flute, turning the crank into percussion. Grounds pile like dark snow. Water is borrowed from the river itself, scooped, strained through muslin, poured into a dented sieve the fisherman swears was once a helmet. You set it on coals. As it heats, the baby starts fussing, mother rocks, tambourine jingling like pocket change. You sprinkle grounds, watch them sink, rise, foam. The moment it threatens to boil over, you lift it, let it settle, repeat. Twice for tradition, third time for luck. Cups pass hand to hand, tin, porcelain, one carved from cedar, the walnut one you carried. Each sip is followed by closed eyes, small sighs, feet digging into sand as if anchoring themselves to the planet. The gulls wheel lower, curious. You toss a few grounds their way, they peck, decide politics isn't tasty, lift off. Dusk deepens. Lanterns on anchored boats blink awake like fireflies with mortgages. Across the water, minarets light one by one, their calls drifting over waves, mixing with flute notes into accidental harmony. No one mentions tomorrow's raid, talking would break the spell. Instead, the fisherman hums, middle sea, others join, and soon the beach itself seems to vibrate, a low arm that travels water, stone, ear, heart. You feel the copper coin in your gut answer, a metallic echo. Even swallowed currency wants harmony. When the coffee is gone, grounds remain, dark crescents in sand. The woman with the tambourine scoops them into a tiny jar. Fertilizer for geraniums, she says. Let flowers taste what fear tried to ban. The boy pours river water onto coals. They hiss, exhale, die. Smoke lifts, thinning into night. Packing up, each person palms a single unroasted bean from the spare sack you carried. Seeds, the fisherman declares, for window boxes, courtyard cracks, anywhere earth pretends to sleep. They tuck them behind ears, into headscarves, one into the baby's blanket. Tiny conspiracies portable. You distribute the remaining tins, 3 gone, 17 to go. Addresses are whispered, no paper. Memories sharpen when danger is the sharpening stone. Before parting, the fisherman clinks his tin against yours. To scales, he says, meaning fish, music, justice. You echo the toast, feel the sound travel through metal into metacarpals, into blood. The group disperses, footprints crossing like unfinished arguments. You stay to kick sand over the last ember. A final spark reveals the walnut cup in your hand. You fill it with river water, drink, taste cedar, cardamom, and something new, river silt, city heartbeat, maybe hope. Upstream, a patrol boat glides, lantern scanning banks. You extinguish the cup's reflection with your shadow, wait till the boat passes. Their light catches only fish, maybe ghosts. You climb back toward streets, shoes heavy with wet sand, satchel lighter, spirit brewed. Somewhere above, the governor counts chickpeas, but down here the beach remembers being a café. Waves keep 6/8 time, and beans are buried in pockets like loose change for the vending machine of destiny. Night officially starts now. Curfew in 3 hours. You have deliveries, warnings, and a list that smells of roses and ink. You walk, humming Middle C, footprints leaving dark commas in the sand, sentences the tide will edit, but not erase. You leave the riverbank with sand in your socks and Middle C in your bloodstream, threading alleys that smell of kelp and distant bread. The city is tipping from dusk to curfew. Shutters slam like books closed mid-sentence, lamps dim to polite whispers. Your satchel, 6 tins lighter now, rides against your hip, each clink a tiny passport stamp. The map leads you to a hammam long closed for repairs that no one ever began. Its dome is cracked open like a cracked cup, moonlight pouring through, pooling on wet marble below. You circle to the servant's entry, find a door ajar, breathe the warm breath of old steam and older secrets. Inside, darkness glows with residual heat. You follow corridors once trod by attendants carrying copper bowls of water and gossip. Now the only sound is condensation drip drip, like a metronome keeping time for ghosts. At the central chamber you stop, the belly of the dome, floor mosaic depicting a coffee tree whose beans are actually tiny stars. Someone has laid carpets over the roots, kilims faded to the color of over-steeped nostalgia. On the carpets, a circle of sleepers, heads pointing inward, feet bare, robes loosely belted. Between them, a small brazier exhales the last warmth of dying coals. A ladle rests on the grate, still holding a single roasted bean, cracked wide, showing pale inner flesh, second crack fossilized mid-dream. A woman, grey braid thick as ship rope, opens one eye, sees you, pats the empty space beside her. You obey, remove shoes, sit cross-legged. She whispers, "We dream the roast we cannot brew." Her breath carries cardamom and lullaby. Others stir, not quite waking, adjusting like birds on a wire. Someone begins to hum. Low, circular, the exact frequency of a bean cooling after fire. The sound enters your chest, vibrates the copper coin still lodged somewhere between breakfast and regret. Grey Braid introduces herself as the keeper of second cracks. She explains, "This is a nightly practice. Citizens gather to dream collectively of coffee they're forbidden to drink." One person stays awake to tend the dream fire. Tonight it's her. She points to a tiny grinder, handle moving by itself slowly, as if grinding invisible beans. "We roast in sleep," she says. "Safer than daylight." You lie back, let the dome's broken mouth frame the moon. The hum deepens. Someone snores in 7/8, another in gentle 3/4. You feel consciousness loosen, bean-like, ready to split. Dream arrives swift. You stand inside the cave roaster, but you are the bean. Heat wraps, outer skin dries, tightens. First crack, pop. You split open, reveal inner self, vulnerable, aromatic. Around you, thousands of other beans crack in unison, sound like applause at a puppet show where strings are cut. You tumble, brown, glistening, and realize pain and flavor are synonyms spelled differently. Second crack approaches, softer, conspiratorial. You pop again, smaller this time, oils surface like memories you didn't know you secreted. You see the governor's hourglass shatter. Sand becomes grounds, blown by wind into cups across the city. People sip, smile, march to palace, offer foam instead of taxes. The governor, suffocated by laughter, becomes a statue made of coffee cake, crumbles at first rain. You wake to actual rain, drips through the dome, landing on your forehead, warm as fresh brew. The circle is dispersing, people stretching, sharing yawns that smell uncannily of cardamom. Grey Braid offers you the ladle's bean. "Take it," she says. "It dreamt you." You pocket it beside the pale, unroasted seed Nay gave you. Now you carry past and future cracked and whole. She hands you a tiny tin, different from your satchel stock, older, patina like antique copper. "Dreamers blend," she explains. "Roasted only in sleep, ground by snores, brewed by morning breath. Deliver to the sentry at the north gate. He's insomniac. One sip, he'll nap, doors open." You add it to belt, feel weight of collective REM cycles. Outside, pre-dawn ink thins to bruised violet. Curfew lifts in an hour, first call to prayer not far behind. You step into cool air, dome at your back, city still pretending to sleep. In your pocket, the dreamed bean pulses, second crack echoing whenever you blink. You walk, humming the 7/8 snore, footsteps keeping soft percussion. Somewhere ahead, a gate guard yawns his way toward unconsciousness. A patrol boat idles with lanterns that can't decide on direction, and the governor counts chickpeas, unaware that nights are roasting without his permission. You taste the dream again, foam as revolt, laughter as currency, cracks as beginnings. The coin in your gut vibrates, maybe agreeing, maybe urging slower roast. You oblige, breathe, let rain mist your face like cooling pan. Another delivery, another dawn, another crack. This one not of doom, but of bean, of possibility, of city waking up to smell itself and deciding the aroma is worth the risk. Dawn's bruise yellows as you reach the North Gate sentry box, a wooden cupboard masquerading as authority. Inside, the guard is already yawning wide enough to swallow doctrine. His helmet droops over one eye like a wilted tulip. You offer the dream roasted tin. He sniffs, nods, drinks. 30 seconds later, he's asleep on his feet, snoring in 5/4 times signature. You step around him, try not to envy the tempo. Beyond the gate, the city exhales market breath, fish, bread, early gossip. Vendors arrange produce, unaware that beans, illegal, dreamed, and clandestine, have just crossed their perimeter inside your belt. You feel like customs smuggling customs. A street crier appears, voice hoarse from overuse, waving a fresh sheet the color of pistachio panic. You expect another ban, but the headline reads, "Imperial amnesty rumored, cough houses may reopen." No signature, no seal, just hope printed in crooked type. People cluster, reading aloud, stumbling over words like kids tasting sweets they'd forgotten existed. An elderly man tugs your sleeve. "Is it true?" he asks, eyes shining like newly washed cups. You shrug. Rumors are foam, pretty, temporary, sticking to everything. Yet your pulse quickens. The list in your pocket suddenly feels less suicidal. You follow the crier. He nails another sheet to a mosque door. Same text, but beneath someone has scrawled, if morning, then foam. The handwriting is unmistakably the Storytellers, looped, amused, irreverent. He's seeding optimism like birds sowing sky with song. Inside the courtyard, imams argue semantics. Does amnesty include foam by products of foam, or merely remorse? Worshippers side with whichever interpretation promises earliest sip. You leave them to theology and push on. At the spice bazaar, the air is a cocktail of competing aromas. Cumin bullying cinnamon, dried mint flirting with sun-dried tomatoes. A vendor openly displays a sack labeled chickpea, official, harmless. Beside it, smaller sack whispering not chickpea. He winks. You wink back, purchase a handful of fake beans for the comedy value. They rattle like wooden castanets. Further in, you spot the lace-veiled woman, veil today the color of over-steeped tea, bargaining for saffron. She notices you, finishes quickly, guides you behind a curtain of hanging dill. "Rumor is bait," she says without greeting. "Governor planted it, wants conspirators to surface so he can net them." She taps your belt. "Keep brewing, but stay submerged." She hands you a new sheet, different green, official seal, crudely forged. Text: "Amnesty denied, ban extended indefinitely." Counter-rumor ready for distribution. "Spread after lunch," she instructs. "Let hope rise, then break. Broken hope makes people careless." You dislike the psychology, but pocket the page. Misinformation is currency here, and you're already overdrawn. Leaving the bazaar, you pass a coffee part mender sitting cross-legged, tools arrayed like surgical instruments. A small sign: "Will repair for stories." You offer the cracked porcelain cup from your pouch. He examines the lightning bolt, nods. "Beautiful fracture, looks like decision." He threads copper wire through the crack, twists, snips, polishes. The cup now wears a scar shaped like a treble clef. He refuses coin, asks for a tale instead. You tell him about riverbank roasting. He listens, eyes closed, inhaling narrative steam. When you finish, he says, "Now the cup holds more than liquid. It holds plot." You thank him, move on, cup warmer than coffee. At the palace perimeter, you notice soldiers chatting, relaxed. Rumor has side effects. One laughs, wipes froth from an imaginary mustache, jokes about tennis spurs buying nothing these days. Their sergeant arrives, waves the counter-rumor sheet. Faces fall, shoulders slump. Hope giveth, propaganda taketh away. You slip past while morale deflates. Mid-morning finds you on a rooftop where pigeons practice politics, cooing, jostling, then flying off when decisions get hard. You sit, produce the dream bean from the hammam. It's cool, cracked, real. You plant it inside a broken terracotta pot already housing a sad geranium. Cover, water with leftover tea from your flask. Somewhere, a bean that dreamt you now dreams soil. Below, the city oscillates between rumors. Amnesty, yes. Amnesty, no. Maybe partial. Maybe only for decaf. People move like pendulums. Tempo set by whichever sheet was nailed up most recently. You realize the governor isn't fighting coffee. He's fighting narrative, and narrative foams faster than water. You descend, belt lighter by 2 more tins, heart heavier by 1 conspiracy. The hourglass still exists somewhere, sand still falling, but every grain now carries a rumor, a bean, a dream. You walk on, footsteps keeping 5/4 in honor of the sleeping sentry, wondering which will run out first, sand, stories, or the city's willingness to believe. Morning peels itself like a hard-boiled egg left too long in hope. You wake in an attic room above the mirror vendor's shop, goat mustache repurposed as sleeping mask. Below, the city is already crackling, vendors arguing over stall placement, mothers shouting children into clean shirts, cats darting between legs like furry rumors. Today is the day, maybe. The counter-rumor sheet you helped spread lies trampled in the gutter beside the original amnesty notice. Overnight, someone printed a 3rd edition, reopening at noon, Governor's Mercy. The font is official enough to tremble hearts. No one knows who authored it. Authorship is less important than aroma. You descend, belt reloaded with remaining tins, 12 now, each labeled in your head with tiny stories: river, chess, saffron, dream. The mirror boy greets you, offers a polished hand-sized disc. "Check your face," he says. "History is watching." You glance. eyes bloodshot from conspiracy, upper lip clean, confidence cracked like over fired porcelain. You practice a smile, it feels counterfeit but wearable. Streets funnel toward the main coffee quarter, every step a drum roll. Shutters remain closed, but eyes peer through slats, measuring daylight for safety. You spot the oud youth from prison orchestra tuning quietly behind a column, the veiled woman minus veil, hair now silver in public sunlight, the fisherman carrying a net full not of fish, but of empty cups clinking like fragile bells. Everyone is rehearsing normal, normal being a play that closed 15 days ago. At the Fountain Square, soldiers cluster, helmets on, but spears lean casually, uncertain props in an unrehearsed finale. The governor's platform stands taller than yesterday, draped in greener silk, as if height and hue could intimidate aroma. An hourglass, new, larger, rests at his feet, sand already running. He looks nervous, cheeks powdered, turban pinned with an emerald the size of a bureaucratic conscience. Nearby, a makeshift stage hosts the storyteller, shadow puppets dangling like idle conspiracies. He catches your eye, winks. Today's script is unwritten, puppets improvise. You weave closer, belt clinking softly, tins keeping 6/8 against your hip. A murmur ripples, the Sultan's envoy approaches, an elderly man in white silk, beard so symmetrical it looks edited. Behind him, 2 servants carry a sealed crate. The governor bows lower than physics recommends. Envoy speaks, voice soft as parchment. His Majesty desires harmony. Let the foam return. Gasps, then cautious cheers. The governor straightens, adjusts smile, announces, by imperial benevolence, coffee houses reopen under supervision. Supervision is whispered like a footnote, but people here only reopen. Applause detonates, tentative, then torrential. But you notice the fine print fluttering from the envoy's sleeve, new taxes per cup, permits per establishment, a foam content inspector. Freedom wearing a leash. Still, shutters begin lifting, copper parts appear, someone actually laughs high, startled, like a bird flushed from cover. You deliver tins quickly, hand to hand, no speeches. The oud youth receives one, hugs it like a returned sibling. The coppersmith sets another onto coals immediately. Aroma rises, people inhale as if oxygen had been gone. You feel the city's lungs refill. Noon arrives via masked clocks staggered by neighborhood ego. The governor flips the hourglass, public, ceremonial, sand cascading like taxpayer money. He declares a 15-day trial of regulated enjoyment. Puppets mark him instantly, miniature hourglass on screen, sand turning into coins dropping into a chest marked supervision. Laughter spreads. Even soldiers smirk behind gauntlets. Envoy departs, relief visible in the unwrinkled back of his robe. The governor remains, scanning crowds for non-regulation joy. You keep moving, distributing hope in measured doses. 11 tins, 10-9. Each empty tin you keep, they'll make good percussion later. Inside the first reopened house, cups clink like rain on tin roofs. People speak softly, as if loud words might break the miracle. You spot the scholar who memorizes flavor. He inhales steam, eyes closed, reciting, opening notes, liberation, mid-palate, caution, finish, taxation. Applause for his tasting, he bows, embarrassed. A boy, mirror vendor's cousin, offers you a thimble of brew. You sip. It tastes of 15 compressed days, of almost lost, of almost regained. Your eyes water, you blame steam. Outside, the storyteller begins a new tale, once upon a time that started today. Children gather, parents linger. Puppets dance, spoon sword fights, abacus vizier, Hero wins by paying taxes politely, then opening a free refill stand. Moral: survive supervision with sarcasm. But tension threads the joy, inspectors roam, clipboards ready, measuring foam height like bakers rating croissants. You watch one write a citation for excessive aroma. Patrons laugh. Inspector doesn't. Aroma persists regardless. You deliver the last tin to the veiled woman. She removes veil entirely, hair silver under sun, defiant. "Keep one cup for yourself," she says. You do. Lightning-cracked porcelain, scar-wired bright. The brew is perfect, illegal only in spirit. Sand in the governor's hourglass creeps downward. People glance at it between sips, between jokes, as if watching fuel. When the last grain falls, will joy be revoked? No one knows, everyone refills. You stand on the fountain rim, raise your cup. No speech, just a toast to foam, to cracks, to wires that hold us together. The crowd answers with clinking, a sound like rain deciding to stay. The governor scowls, flips the hourglass again. Sand restarts, leash reasserted. But cups keep circulating, laughter keeps spilling. Supervision can measure foam, not frequency of hope. You sip, taste taxation, taste liberation, taste tomorrow's uncertainty, bitter, sweet, very lightly illegal again. The governor's hourglass gulps sand like a nervous student chugging answers before the bell, but cups continue to circulate, each refill a quiet referendum on joy. You step down from the fountain rim, feet tingling from balancing both body and expectation. The lightning-cracked cup in your hand is warm, its wire scar glinting like a tiny railroad track across porcelain skin. You breathe steam, preparing for the sip that history might label first legal swallow, though legality tastes suspiciously like paperwork soaked in suspicion. Around you, conversations regain volume, words clinking off porcelain like spoons learning independence. A boy, maybe the mirror vendor's cousin, maybe history's intern, tugs your sleeve. "Record the moment," he whispers, offering a charcoal stub and a scrap the color of over-steeped anxiety. You accept, unsure whether to write or sketch the foam. Across the square, the inspector returns, clipboard glowing with self-importance. He measures a patron's cup, dipstick, frown, scribble. The patron, an elderly man with mustache majestic enough to house legislation, deliberately sips, leaving a milk-brown foam mustache. He smacks lips, audibly. The inspector's pen hovers, tempted by tenor spurs, but the crowd's collective gaze weighs more. Pen retreats. Tyranny blinks. You raise your cup to eye level, align it with the moon still visible in daylight. Pale bean in pale sky. Steam writes calligraphy you can't read, but your tongue remembers. You sip. Flavor arrives in slow legislation. First, warmth. Permission slipping down throat. Second, cedar, smoke of reopened doors. Third, taxation, bitter bracket on aftertaste. You swallow both beverage and bureaucracy, feel them settle like uneasy roommates. Applause breaks out, small, sincere, directed at no one and everyone. Someone begins clinking spoon against cup, rhythm tentative, then confident. The sound spreads, a porcelain orchestra tuning to joy. Even the governor's platform vibrates, though he pretends it's beneath him. The storyteller bows, puppets taking curtain calls. Children imitate the clinking, unaware they're rehearsing revolution's percussion. You scribble on the scrap. First legal sip tastes like supervision with cream. The boy pockets it for future footnotes. Inspector approaches you, recognizes belt now empty of tins, frowns. "Name," he demands. You almost say foam, but prudence arrives late and sober. You give a name that sounds plausible yet forgettable, something like Orhen or maybe Thursday. He writes, grunts, moves on, already bored. You exhale, taste lingering taxation, decide it's worth the price of public breathing. The elderly moustache man clinks your cup with his, toast to foam, to cracks, to wires that hold porcelain and people together. His eyes water. You nod, understanding that flavor sometimes includes tears, like salt on caramel. From the governor's platform, a trumpet sounds, not celebratory, more like a reminder of invoices unpaid. The hourglass is flipped again. Sand restarts its fiscal descent. Cups continue to fill regardless, leveled by laughter, not legislation. You sip once more, slower, letting liquid pool under tongue before sliding down. This time you detect something extra, a faint floral note. Jasmine from the wife's garden, rose from the scholar's ink, river reeds from last night's roast. Aromas that attach themselves to steam and hitched a ride into your mouth. History, you realize, is a blend. A child offers you sugar, cube, irregular, wrapped in paper printed with tiny tulips. You drop it in. It dissolves like compromise. Sweetness cancels bitterness, but only on the surface. Underneath, taxation remains, a reminder that freedom often comes with subscription fees. The square begins to empty. People return to shops, to lives, to the cautious business of regulated enjoyment. Cups are stacked, counted, recorded. Inspectors close clipboards with the finality of coffin lids. The governor descends, silk rustling like dry petitions. He shoots the crowd a look that says trial period louder than trumpets. You remain, cup now cool, dregs swirling into shape of a crescent moon. You tilt it, let last drop fall onto your tongue, period at the end of a sentence that refuses to finish. The drop tastes of tomorrow, uncertain, necessary, lightly caffeinated. You set the cup on the fountain rim, offering or maybe promise that someone else will pick it up, refill, continue the story. Porcelain meets stone with a clink softer than a heartbeat, louder than silence. Behind, the hourglass keeps swallowing sand, but cups keep circulating, clinking, refilling. Supervision can measure volume, not velocity of hope. You walk away, footsteps keeping time with distant spoons, heart keeping tempo with distant dreams. Somewhere ahead, historians argue why bands fail. Somewhere above, gulls cry over spilled foam. Somewhere inside, the coin vibrates, agreeing first legal sip is just the opening move. Game continues, bean by bean, cup by cup, crack by crack. You leave the square with the empty lightning cup tucked inside your sash like a discharged passport. Behind you, clinking fades into ordinary city noise. Carts, gulls, the distant cough of a trumpet reminding everyone the trial period is still ticking. Ahead, the street splits, left leads uphill to the palace archives where scribes scratch eternity into ledgers. Right winds down to the harbor where stories are folded into cargo holds. You choose middle, an alley barely wide enough for honesty, because answers sometimes hide in margins. Halfway along, you meet the debate already in progress. Two elderly men at a stone table, chessboard between them, but instead of pieces they arrange coffee beans, green, roasted, ground, pushing them across squares labeled economy, morality, ego, weather. A small crowd watches, murmuring like kettles approaching steam. The man in ink-stained robes, obviously a palace archivist, claims ban was fiscal. Coffee diverted coin from state taverns. Treasury yawned, coffers cracked, Sultan blinked. He advances a dark roasted bean onto the economy square. It lands with a faint crack second hand. His opponent, a former Janissary turned gardener, snorts. Nonsense. It was morale. Foam makes men chat. Chat breeds gossip. Gossip topples turbans. He slides a green bean onto morality, unroasted, defiant. A third voice, woman veiled in academic black, interjects. It was foreign influence. Beans are immigrants. Ban was border control. She places a cinnamon stick bishop between squares, confusing everyone. They notice you, the walking anecdote, and beckon. You were there, the archivist says. Speak. You hesitate, taste taxation still lingering on tongue, and offer, maybe it was aesthetic. He feared anything that painted dawn better than he could. You nudge a pale bean onto ego. It wobbles, stays. Crowd murmurs approval. Debate continues, now with audience participation. Someone cites climate, drought raising bean prices, government blaming pleasure to hide inflation. Another mentions astrology. Mercury retrograde, coffee blamed for celestial miscommunication. Each theory placed on the board like spices at a tasting. No one agrees, everyone snacks. Beans disappear slowly, eaten between arguments, evidence converted into energy. You watch history being both constructed and consumed, flavor influencing opinion more than fact. The gardener turns to you, lowers voice. Truth is, governor lost a bet. Sultan dreamed beans spoke prophecy, woke laughing. Governor wagered he could silence laughter, lost twice, once to dream, once to foam. He pops the prophecy bean into his mouth, chews, smiles. Rumor seasoned with humor, served lukewarm. From uphill, palace horns sound, short, official, bored. The archivist gathers parchment, excuses himself. Document while warm, he says, scurrying away. The board remains half empty, like a meal historians will argue over centuries later. You walk on, pondering, perhaps bans are less policy than posture, a way to look busy while sand falls. Maybe governors govern doubt, not beans. Maybe history is just flavor agreeing on punctuation. At the next corner, you find a smaller table, children arranging cups instead of beans, squares labeled mum, dad, soldier, cat. They play without rules, refill with invisible coffee, laugh when foam overflows. Their game ends when the cat knocks the board over. Everyone drinks from the floor. Pure improvisation, no supervision needed. You smile, leave them to their scholarship. Behind, the chessboard men continue, voices fading. Economy. Morality. Weather. Arguments echo off stone, mixing with harbor wind, sounding like beans cooling. Pop, hiss, whisper. Ahead, the harbor waits, ships' masts drawing lines across sky like pens waiting for ink. You carry 12 tins, 1 lightning cup, a coin dissolving slowly in the stomach of your story. Historians will argue, beans will forgive, foam will evaporate leaving rings on tabletops. Evidence that someone somewhere chose to drink despite the odds. You descend toward water, footsteps keeping time with distant pop of second crack, heart keeping rhythm with distant laughter. Let them argue. You have deliveries, and dawn is always a new brew. The harbor swallows the last of the sun, masts turning into knitting needles against a bruised lavender sky. Ships creak like old confessionals. You walk the dock listening for the one that will carry remaining tins across water, past patrols, toward mouths that still believe tomorrow should taste of possibility, not paperwork. A fisherman, different from the riverbank roaster, same wind-carved face. Waves you aboard a cake, painted the color of weak coffee with cream lying about its strength. Name on the bow, second crack. He doesn't ask for papers. Aroma is passport enough. You hand over 3 tins, He nests them inside a hollowed-out pumpkin already smelling of nutmeg and childhood. Foam guards the scent, he explains. Soldiers hate pumpkins, reminds them of lanterns that went out. The boat pushes off. Water parts, city slides backward like a curtain revealing stars. You sit mid-bench, lightning cup cradled in palms, walnut cup tucked beside it like a shy sibling. Oars keep 6/8. Your heart sinks, unwilling soloist. Mid-channel, you open one last tin for the crew. 4 men, 2 women, 1 cat who insists on being addressed as captain. Beans are ground between 2 river stones, brewed in a dented seive held over a lantern that swings with each swell. Foam forms, stubborn against wind. You ladle. Cups pass. First sip tastes of departure, cedar smoke, salt. Something metallic, maybe fear, maybe coin finally dissolving in gut saying farewell through gills of steam. No one speaks. Language feels bulkier than aroma. When cups empty, crew place them upside down on deck, forming a tiny porcelain cemetery. Someone taps one, it rings middle C. Another taps different pitch. Soon the deck is a xylophone of memories, each cup singing where it's been. Your lightning crack cup hums longest, scar vibrating like a violin string. The cat purrs harmony, unpaid, exact. Across water, the Asian shore approaches. Hills dark, lamps sparse, rules thinner. You hand the fisherman the embroidered map. He nods, alters course toward a cove shaped like a coffee leaf. Lantern lowered, you glide in, sand greeting keel with soft applause. On shore, a signal, 3 flashes, copper reflecting moon. You respond with one, shielding flame with palm. Figures emerge, 5, maybe 6, robes belted with urgency. Among them, the silver-veiled woman, hair now unbound, looking lunar. She accepts tins, distributes without counting. Trust is lighter than arithmetic. She offers a final tin, different, older, patiner like antique conscience. Inside, beans roasted the night of the very first ban, saved for symbolic resurrection. Plant where soil remembers laughter, she says. You pocket it beside the pale seed, the dream crack seed. Now you carry trilogy, past, present, future, all crunchy. Behind her, others build a tiny fire. Someone produces the puppet hero spoon, now dented but dignified. It becomes stirring stick. Water boils. The oldest bean meets the newest flame. Aroma rises, meets breeze, travels city-ward, a postcard from the future addressed to anyone still counting sand. You pour into lightning cup, sip. Taste is time compressed. First crack of 15 nights ago, second crack of this morning, finish of tomorrow uncertain. You swallow, feel history settle, feel future fizz. The cat landed unnoticed, rubs your ankle, purrs approval. You crouch, scratch behind ears, whisper thanks. She responds with a single slow blink, universal code for mission accepted, destination nap. Crew prepares to push off. Silver veil woman touches your sleeve. Stay or sail, she asks. You glance at both shores, Europe, regulation, Asia, possibility. You choose middle, the water itself, the crack between continents, the place bans can't police because it keeps moving. You board. Oars lift, drip, push. Cove recedes. Fire on beach shrinks to ember, to memory, to punctuation. City skyline returns. Minarets like exclamation marks. Domes like parentheses enclosing a people still learning how to spell freedom. On deck, cups sit upright now, catching starlight, storing it as future warmth. You place lightning cup among them, equal, scarred home. Wind picks up, sails flap like lazy applauders. You breathe, taste salt, coffee, and something looser. Relief, maybe, or simply the recognition that stories like beans travel better when roasted. Behind, the governor's hourglass continues swallowing sand, but you're no longer in its belly, you're in the throat, the crack, the second between grain and glass. Ahead, open water, open night, open questions. You sit, back against mast, cup between palms, heart between beats. The city dims, but aroma persists, riding wind, searching nostrils, knocking on doors that may open or may not. Either way, the scent will know it tried. Nightfall over warm porcelain, you decide, is indistinguishable from dawn over new grounds. Both smell of possibility, both require patience, both end in a sip, bitter, sweet, unfinished. The boat drifts beyond the headland until the city becomes a necklace of lanterns someone left on the dresser of night. You keep watch at the rail, lightning cup refilled with plain water now, no grounds left, only memory. Each sip tastes faintly of every previous brew, ghost flavors steeping imagination. Behind you, crew members sleep under constellations that look like spilled beans across black marble. The cat curls on the tiller, tail keeping 3/4 against the lap of waves. Forward, open sea, open questions, open mouth tasting wind that carries cardamom from unseen shores. You think of the people still circling the hourglass, clinking cups, paying taxes on laughter. Maybe they'll win tomorrow, maybe the next day. Victories here are measured in sips, not centuries. You carry no answers, only aroma, and aroma, like gossip, prefers travel to conclusion. Somewhere in your pocket, 3 seeds knocked together, one unroasted, one dream cracked, one rescued from the first ban. When you reach the opposite shore, you'll plant them where soil smells of nothing and see what insists on growing. Below deck, the empty tins roll gently, keeping time with no song in particular. You join them, stretch against warm timber, let eyelids droop. In the hush between heartbeats, you hear the city, distant, permanent, brewing. Each breath is slower, the night leans closer. Stars gather overhead like foam on a cup that never empties. You are safe. There is nothing left to do tonight except dream of tomorrow's roast. Sweet dreams.